back for our second set of Friday SPL action. Mifflin joins me to talk about it. Miff, set one, I think, delivered on all fronts for everyone who is excited about that one. And I think there are going to be a lot of people excited about our second set here on Friday. Two fan favorites going head-to-head, Sanguine up against Rival. This is bound to be a great matchup.
Yeah, I'm expecting another 3-game set. I mean, these teams are very equally matched. I mean, Rival has some of the best mechanical players, full stop. They've got the world's MVP in Sanford Soccer. PandaCat and PBM seem almost undefeatable in that duo lane, but as do Sanguines. I mean, Ronngyu, Netrioid, these guys have been completely bodying everyone they've been up against. I mean, we saw what they did to Snoopy and Ionic just the other week. It's going to be a very bombastic set, to say the least.
I agree, and you bring up kind of undefeatable. Sanguine, granted through only 2 games, have been undefeatable, whereas Rival fell week 1 to E United and then bounced back against the Renegades. Let's talk a little bit about Sanguine, though. Obviously a fan favorite, hard to dislike these guys, just on a personal level, so it's no surprise to me that they have a lot of fans. But I think so much of their success has kind of built in the early game, a lot of the times in this long lane. I mean, you look at Netrioid. Let's talk about stats on him just for a second. Tied for 7th in the league in kills at 19, and he has died a single time through all of their games up to this point. 4 games, a single death for Netrioid, and he's tied for 2nd on First Bloods. A lot of their success is all over the map, but a lot of it starts here in the long lane.
I mean, yeah, Netrioid's such a talented player. I mean, some of that lack of death might be due to the fact that he is known for this Jing Wei pick, one of the most safe hunters possible, but he plays it at the absolute top level, and as long as teams are going to continue to give it to him, I don't see any reason for him to stop. I mean, he's got a lot of first blood potential, knockups, one of the most potent forms of CC in the game. Netrioid completely playing around his team insanely well. We see him leashing Fire Giant often, trying to force fights. I mean, this guy is playing out of his mind.
And even to extend from that, I talk about how the kind of pressure is extended all over the map. Starts in the early game. They maybe slowed down a little bit in the mid game, but their late games have been figured out here. And Sanguine, well, they haven't lost yet. And the focal point of that replay package, of course, on Netrioid for a good reason. And we sat down with him, saw how he was feeling prior to this big matchup up against Rival.
Well, we're here with Netrioid from Sanguine, and this is maybe one of the best interviews we can have because Sanguine right now has taken the league by storm. And I mean, you guys have come out on fire, the team play, everyone's acknowledging it. So I just want to know, like, how is the team feeling? I mean, this is a lot of good success.
Yeah, we're feeling pretty good. We're feeling pretty comfortable. I think we're playing against Rival, so I think it is gonna be like our hardest match so far. And well, let's see how it turns.
Well, that's actually going to be interesting. So I guess before we get into Rival, I'll look at last week. You were up against SSG, and that one was one that was kind of surprising, not only to see you guys win, but to see you win as a 2-0, right? Because, I mean, SSG, there's a ton of big names on them. So how did it feel last week, not only getting the win, but what were the comms like? What were the emotions like throughout the set?
Oh, the emotions were so great that we knew for a fact that the Space Station is a really good team, and as soon as we were like winning and seeing that we were succeeding, we were like, oh, we can win this game. And then the second game, we were like, oh, we got this game, like, for sure. There's no way we can lose. So yeah, it was a really nice feeling.
You get control, and you kept control, and you looked good doing it. Now you're going to go up against, as you had mentioned, Rival, and they're in an interesting position. They lost their first week, won their second week, and they're in this kind of transition period because of the role swaps they've had coming into Season 7. So do you think role swaps are going to make them maybe easier, a little harder to play? And you had mentioned this is going to be your hardest matchup. What is your team's like mentality against Rival for today?
My team mentality right now is to demonstrate that we can play against them too. If we don't win, I think we're gonna give good matches at least, and if not, just learn from our errors and move on. But right now we feel pretty confident. I think the role swapping it's gonna be interesting because I know for a fact that CaptainTwig likes to do like crazy things from time to time. And yeah, it's gonna be a really exciting match.
Well, I think everyone is excited to watch it. A lot of people rooting for Sanguine coming into this one as well. So Good luck in your games, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I love the mindset that Netrioid has there. Going up against Team Rival, it's no small task. They realize this is going to be a tough one, and I like the way he kind of says, hey, we may lose, but these are going to be really close games. This is a team that is keeping a level head amongst recent success, and for good reason. And going up against Team Rival is definitely not a team that you can scoff at, despite being 1-1, an early loss to E United. Rival's a team that stats-wise, kills, deaths, kind of middle of the pack, but they definitely found their stride, I think, Mifflin, in their win last time we saw them, and a team that is going to look to carry that momentum here up against Sanguine.
I always watch a Sanguine interview, and I immediately think, wow, these guys are so humble. I mean, anytime I'm given any opportunity to have an ego, you know I've got it. And it's not going to their head at all. They're beating out these top-tier teams. They're taking out these huge competitors that have been in the SPL since nearly day one, and immediately they're like, okay, that was good. What can we improve on? That's an insane competitor's mentality, and I'm only proud of them for it.
Absolutely. And I'm curious as to what you think maybe – or where your mind goes on important matchups here in this set. I think long lane needs to be looked at. PandaCat up against Netrioid, I think, is going to be impactful, if nothing else, because of how much success Sanguine have had in that long lane. But I think Sam for Soccer in the jungle as well, he'll have his hands full with Panitom. Panitom has the second most kills in this league. He's third fewest in deaths. So where do your eyes maybe go looking towards specific matchups here? Where does Rival really need to bring it to give themselves an edge?
I mean, you kind of nailed it. It's that duo lane. We can't have Sanguine getting off these insane starts that we've seen before. So it's going to be on PBM and PandaCat to either do it to them or at least shut down that aggression. And the junglers, I mean, Sam for Soccer being that MVP jungler from Worlds, I mean, that's a huge deal. This guy's one of the best junglers for putting pressure on the map as well as maintaining his farm. There's a lot going for him there. Panitom hasn't had quite a breakout performance quite yet, not at least to the same degree that Netrioid has. So I think keeping your eye on that jungle and seeing how well they stack up against each other is going to be a good way to indicate how this set's going to go.
And I'm excited to watch kind of this mid lane duel as well. They talked about role swaps a little bit in the interview with Netrioid. CaptainTwig, a guy who's kind of had to change up his playstyle a little bit coming into Season 7 of the SPL, and Gormizer was able to sit with him, hear some of his thoughts prior to going up against a fan favorite in Sanguine.
Well, now we're here with Twig from Team Rival, and I guess I'm going to start this one off, I guess maybe the rough way, which is that the start of the season has been maybe a little rocky for you, the loss to E United, but then a win against Renegades. So how's the team feeling coming into Week 3?
We're feeling pretty confident still. Feeling pretty bad over losing to E United, and actually we had a pretty rough Renegade set. But I think the whole team's pretty confident that we should beat every team if we don't make a million mistakes every game. So honestly, we're feeling pretty confident.
I guess that's actually probably the best thing. Like the rough set against Renegades, Game 2 was a little more decisive in your favor, but the first game was kind of a surprise that it didn't go the way of Renegades. How were y'all feeling when that one ended that way?
After Game 1, we were feeling, really lucky. I mean, Alex stole a Fire Giant with a Vamana 2, which pretty much kept us in the game, delayed the game like a while, kept Fire Giant off them, I think we'd have lost the game if they had got that fire, but so we were feeling like we got really lucky with that Game 1, and basically I'm glad that we came out with a win, and the Game 1 didn't fluster us or put us off to a bad start, since Game 2 was a lot cleaner.
Definitely seems to go well for you guys. And I guess for you specifically, this has been an interesting time. For all of Rival, it's been an interesting time because you've got those role swaps coming into Season 7. And technically you're going back to mid, but realistically you're transitioning into a new mid lane than you've played before. So how's that been feeling for Season 7?
It's been rough, actually. It's, as you said, it's been 6 years since I played mid lane professionally, and I mean the game's a different game at this point. There's been so many changes. The mid lane's nothing like not even the God pool. Nothing is the same. So it's been a bit rocky. I knew I wouldn't adapt into mid lane perfectly when I was asked by the team to go mid. But I mean, I'm slowly like learning what to do. I'm learning that being proactive in mid lane gets you killed a lot. So you know, I'm working on becoming a more defensive and safe player, basically.
That's always the dangerous thing about mid is, well, the junglers are always lurking whenever they happen to come through. Either way, your matchup today is going to be going up against Sanguine, and they've kind of taken everyone by surprise, I think. Like, everyone knew they were going to be a strength and a force coming into the league, but I think they've hit everyone a little bit harder than expected. So how do you feel that your team is prepared for this match?
Definitely not to kind of underestimate them. They're like a super strong team. The best thing they do is teamwork, I think. Like whenever they group together or do combos together, I feel like they play really well. You can tell that they've been a team for over a year now. And I mean, as long as I think we play really clean early game and don't let them get to the point where they can 5-man team up and win team fights, I think we should definitely win.
Well, it's going to be an interesting one to watch and see how it goes down. This is going to be a fun one. Good luck in your games. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I really like the way CaptainTwig somewhat echoes what we were talking about here, in that the early game, I think, needs to be clean from Rival today. A team that is clean in the mid game, moving into the late game. If you can mitigate what Sanguine does so early on and what they did so successfully just a week ago, I think Rival will have a much better chance here in this matchup. Mifflin, we sort of talked a little bit about the jungle matchup and the long lane matchup. In the mid lane, I think that's an interesting one to look at as well. CaptainTwig, a humble 12, 16, and 18 KDA up to this point. Sheento at 19, 4, and 30. Granted, there have been two different sides of that matchup. CaptainTwig, I think, is going to have his hands full here.
I mean, CaptainTwig said it himself. He's having a hard time adjusting to playing a lot more passively, which makes sense to me, especially considering what role he's coming from. And that speaks volumes to just his character, that's his mainstay fallback is, well, can't really play as aggressively as I once did, and that's really hard to do as a mid laner. Just going to show that maybe there's a bit of a disparity between his new role and his actual true play style.
But I also, on the same side of or a different side, I guess, of the same coin, I don't dislike what I've seen out of CaptainTwig at all, especially in their win. He was the reason they were in that game and a reason they were able to push through and find some victory. So I think some adaptation time, some build-up time for him can only mean good things for Rival as a whole. If this is Twig at his weakest, I can't wait to see what Rival are able to do when they get some of those pieces put together moving through. Picks and bans, though, kicking off for game number 1. Ullr continues to be prioritized, Mifflin, whether it is first round of picks or first round of bans, especially in a role where I think we've seen some decent variety. Jing, obviously a popular pick here for Sanguine. What jumps out to you about Ullr that maybe makes him ban-worthy here from Sanguine?
It's Ullr's raw damage potential as well as his long-range CC, and the fact that he's a flex pick. I mean, flex picks are so valuable simply because it throws off the enemy team's draft. Ullr could very easily go towards the soul lane. It could very easily even go towards the mid lane. There are ways that Ullr can get involved where other hunters can't, and that versatility, that raw damage output, especially considering now that builds are also starting to favor him, kind of all points you towards an Ullr meta. So it makes complete sense to me that we're seeing this heavy focus on him.
And we talked about the player tied for third most kills in the league at Panitom. They're likely going to give him the Thor here in a team that looks for an early impact, get out of the gates hot. Mifflin, Thor kind of strikes me as a perfect pick here for Sanguine to kind of continue a lot of what we've seen find them success early on here in the split.
So much damage potential as well as that global pressure that Thor brings. He's always a threat no matter where he is, no matter what he's doing. The second he's level 5, everyone on Rival have to be completely aware that he could just come crashing down with Anvil of Dawn at any point. And again, Thor could go towards the soul lane or the jungle, so another fantastic flex pick. That means Rival has to be a little bit wary on what they're banning or what they're drafting. Sanguine could show their hand a little early and pick up an additional jungler or something that is more traditional in the soul lane. But I imagine we would honestly see a Jing pick up. I mean, Netrioid's shown time and time again that is his comfort pick.
Yeah, that would be probably the least surprising pick. And it still does not strike me as surprising at all. Netrioid, Jing, two names that I think need to go hand in hand here. Only 2 weeks in to the SPL. Rival, though, I mean, they're obviously privy to that. I imagine this is a team that you watch Sanguine and you realize Jing is is a big part of what has gotten Sanguine, well, a couple of their wins here up to this point. And you talked a little bit about flexibility with that, Thor. I think Odin is another pick here that provides some extra flexibility. I mean, we've seen Odin in the support role, obviously in the solo lane a little bit here and there. So I like what Rival have drafted here as well, and a Raijin to provide some of that good scaling damage on top of it.
Yeah, picking up that Raijin early is incredibly nice, especially considering Sanguine doesn't get their mage in the first 3 picks, so that's a very easy ban path for them. Letting that Horus through Rival for Sanguine, I mean, this is the duo lane that Sanguine wants. Every single game, this is what they want.
Yeah, right.
You'd expect, a team would take away at least one piece of the puzzle, but instead, Sanguine almost uncontested on their draft, getting literally every single one of their top picks. Awilix getting picked up here is interesting. It's going to be a lot harder for Jingwei to use her 1 to escape or even dash out with a 3. There's a lot of ways for Awilix to get involved early, but I think this Odin is almost guaranteed to go towards that support role, which is going to be also difficult to find the aggression, as Horus is going to be able to counter-engage easily.
And I am curious, though. I mean, Jingwei Horus has been tried and true here, as tried and true as you can be through 4 games for Sanguine in the times that they've played that long lane. I am curious as to, teams like Rival, really any team in this league. I think all teams are competitive enough that you can find wins. I am wondering if Rival maybe start to realize that Jingwei Horus is probably what they're going to go up against if it's locked in, and maybe have it game planned around. Is Cupid an answer that came to mind for you, though, Mifflin?
I could have looked at the Hunter's screen for literally 24 hours leading up to this death segment, and I would not have predicted a Cupid pickup at any point by any team for any reason. What Cupid brings is kill potential. You don't pick Cupid to play for the late game. You don't pick Cupid for rotations. You pick him so he can fight in the lane and never stop. The sustain is so high. The cripple on his ultimate is going to make a huge no-play field for the Jingwei. Heart Bomb is such a fantastic CC tool to set up for more auto attacks and just damage. Cupid's got a lot of that in spades, but what he has in damage, he lacks in survivability. He's very easy to gank, especially considering it is a Thor. Once that Field of Love is dropped and his dash is down, Cupid's got no way to escape whatsoever.
I like the mindset, though, that Rival are going with here. I mean, Cupid, certainly an eyebrow raiser of a pick, but I think, one, if you're looking to fight and you're looking to kind of take it to Sanguine in games where they've really extended their lead through that long lane, Cupid may be a good pick here. Quick thoughts, Mifflin, prior to going into game number 1. Obviously, Sanguine have drafted something that's worked for them. Rival throwing a couple interesting picks at us here. What do you make of either composition?
I think that late Hell pickup is a little bit strange. I mean, Odin, one of the traditional Hell counters, but Sanguine definitely has a draft that they are certainly comfortable with, and they've got late game in spades simply off the back of having that Hell.
Well, I imagine community hearts are split here prior to game number 1. Sanguine, Rival, let's go.
Thanks, Dulcin and Mifflin. It's Finch and Aggro here on the calls. You move into game number 1 between Sanguine and Rival, and yet another big set in a week that I think is going to be stacked with them. Sanguine going to come riding in on the Hell when we just saw how well these healers did in the previous set.
But there's an Odin against it this time around. And when I think of premier Hell players in the SPL, Paul and Sheento are the first 2 that I think of. Whirlwind has a great Hell as well, but I really think of those 2 in particular. And I think that Rival is prepared for this. I think that Rival clearly knew what Sanguine wanted in picks and bans. This Cupid pick was not by accident. This Awilix pick was not by accident. I think that they've done a good job of coming in prepared, but just because they know what Sanguine wants doesn't mean that they can beat it. So it's still up to execution. I don't think Rival won picks and bans so hard that this is an unwinnable game for Sanguine, but I think that Rival looks in control of the situation just based on the picks and bans.
I mean, they've got enough CC where I'm saying even with Hell Cleanse, like, do we got enough? To get us away from all this potentially coming down, like between the Raijin ult, the Cupid ultimate as well, potentially getting pulled by this Awilix or locked inside the Odin cage. It's a lot of stuff that if you're on Sanguine, you have to make sure you have the answers for. And remember, this is not low committal from Sanguine in terms of their CC, right? You can displace yourself with this Sobek dash to try and find the charge play. Panitom's got to get in there with the Thor as well. So was Ronngyu on his initiations. I know that they have this Hell and they have that cleanse that provides some safety, but I do wonder if it's quite going to be enough because Rival poses a lot of questions with their draft.
They do, and I'm a little bit surprised at the order in which they decided to pick up this Cupid. I really thought that they would save it for 10th overall, wait for Sanguine to really make their own bed,
and pick a bunch of dashes, you know, King Arthur in the solo lane, all that sort of stuff. But Rival seemed to want to make sure that fineokay got what he wanted in that solo lane. They knew that Panda was getting enough value out of just seeing the Sobek, the Thor, and the Horus in the Jingwei, excuse me. They saw Jingwei, Thor, and Horus. So they know that they're getting some value out of this Cupid either way. But the Hell Cleanse is very potent against this Cupid ultimate. I mean, Cupid, there are lots of drafts where Cupid looks really good. And I feel like more often than not, it still just isn't enough to make me think that this pick is warranted. Because there's just so much that prevents you from being effective with that Fields of Love. Sprint, gone. You're out of there. If you are just not dead center when he casts it in a 1v1, you're out of there. You're just a little bit slowed in the meantime. It's really good in the 5v5 team fights, but there was a time where it felt like if Cupid had you in the 1v1 and you relied on your dash to get out, you were just dead. And I just don't feel like that's the case anymore. Yeah, exactly. Xbalanque, Rom, Ho Yi. There were these picks where you felt like, okay, I've got Cupid against him and we're mano-a-mano in lane, and this dude doesn't have a chance. And now it just feels like there isn't enough damage. Maybe there's some more lifesteal in the builds. I don't know what it is that really changed that, but for me, I just don't feel like that is a death sentence to go up against Cupid in the 1v1 anymore.
No, not necessarily. And I wonder if that's what Rival are even looking for, you know, worried about getting... I mean, obviously they want to get pressure early, but I kind of feel like this squad's going to be grouping up. I mean, that 3v3 aggro, that is fearsome, right? Raijin, Odin, and Awilix, and their potential to potentially punish someone who ends up getting a little bit too far out. They don't have a ton of knockups amongst them, and the opposing 3v3 is not heavily reliant on those leaps per se. But even still without those, I think that they've got some potential. I mean, once Awilix is online and rocking and rolling, and I don't think it takes her all that long, she can really stick to someone like Hell. Maybe my Rival bias is kind of showing through, but I'm a fan of this draft they've got.
No, I agree, and that's like one of the reasons why I was basically begging for an Awilix pick in the first set. Whenever you early pick Odin, if you pair it with Awilix, you do two things. Number one, you take away one of Odin's best counters. If you pick Awilix against Odin, it's very difficult for Odin to find those perfect initiations. She can get out of the cage. It's a matchup we've seen a million times. We know that Awilix is very favored there. But you also put the enemy team in a catch-22 situation where they have to pick jumps to get out of cage, but they can't pick jumps because then they get hit by Awilix. It's pretty simple why you usually see these gods paired in the same game, whether they're on the same team or on enemy teams. And we knew that fineokay was going to go for something that had knock up in solo lane. I thought he was going to go Sobek right after that second banning phase. Sobek Awilix is another very, very classic combo in Smite. But Vamana, we just saw him steal a Fire Giant against Renegades, and as Twig said, probably kept them in that game and prevented them from losing a game they ultimately won. So you know he's good on this god. This is a signature god for him, and it's going to let them knock up pretty easily. And don't forget, by the way, it seems like on paper the only dash or the only leap that you're going to get is Netrioid when he knocks himself up at the 1. Not the case. Horus 3 classified as a leap, that Protector Surge. So if Ronngyu tries to go in, use that Fracture aggressively, and then back up with that 3, Sam Prasaka's going to have the opportunity to hit them with that Gravity Surge.
And they're going to be looking for those opportunities a lot. I mean, take a look at all 3 of these Talaria boots that have been picked up here by Team Rival. They're going to be zooming around the map here right now. It's something we see a lot in solo laners when you don't pick up Teleport. fineokay went with Blink as his first relic, but we're seeing it across the map too as PandaCat has dropped the Fields of Love. I don't know if Netrioid realized that he's in trouble, does have to use the airstrike right away in order to disengage, but there is further help coming in the form of this Blink from PolarBearMike. He's got to land this stun, and he absolutely does. PBM always rises to the occasion and shuts down Netrioid.
And that's perfect timing by PandaCat, because that is not a gank that you can start with the ultimate whenever Sam Prasaka shows up. That's one where you have to set up your lane to be gankable. And so he ults Netrioid 5 seconds before Sam's ever going to get there, but it gets him low, and it makes sure that Netrioid doesn't understand the stakes of this ultimate. Cupid players will often just toss out that Fields of Love in lane to try and get you to use a relic or use an ultimate, and then they're going to abuse you because he's going to go a little bit of CDR to make sure that his ultimate is up sooner than yours, and that's kind of the whole game plan. Now, Netrioid kind of gets the worst of it. He uses the ultimate later, but still eats all the damage. But that means that Panda's going to have an even bigger window where his ultimate is up, and Airstrike isn't. So now Netrioid might be conditioned to use beads next time, even if he's not sure exactly where Sam or PBM is.
That's exactly what Sam Frazaka's going to have to make sure he's continuing to do. I mean, that's how I kind of entered this rival team, right? Is that they're constantly asking you questions, and Sanguine have to respond pretty much perfectly every time in order to get away from them. That's the catch-22 you just talked about for Netrioid being in over here in the left, and potentially using the wrong form of CC media to try and get away when he's going to need a better one later on down the line. So that's what this rival squad's going to keep on doing, keep applying this pressure to Sanguine, because I think their early game can be their weakness sometimes and force them to respond. Panitom has used the hammer to disengage, so Twig goes right to the Type Go drums. Beads allows Panitom to reposition, but he can't channel the ultimate fast enough. Twig gets the second kill of the game for Team Rival, but can Rival afford to fully disengage on the back end of this? They've already done the buff invade they were looking for. They're just ready to leave.
Perfect. In and out. And Rival's looking like the Rival we saw last year, where they are all on the same page consistently, and they're going in the same spots. And they're in clean mechanics there from Twig, goes in, not afraid to use that dash aggressively. We've seen that Twig maybe should be a little bit more scared at times with his positioning in the mid lane. But it's much easier to reel in a player than to get them to be more aggressive. I think it's a much easier knob to turn back than to try and crank up. And so that's why I really don't have any problems with where Twig has been so far in that mid lane. And this is the type of Smite I love to see. It's a young team in Sanguine, young in terms of the SPL, a team that we haven't seen a whole lot from yet. And this is what you want to do against these teams, is just study what they've done. They don't have the experience quite yet to be able to show you a ton of different comps. There's a very predictable comp that Sanguine has run each of the first 2 weeks. And I don't think that's a knock against them, because you're going to keep playing what you are good at until someone proves to you they can beat it. But you have to show that you've got something else after the fact.
Yeah, Netrioid doesn't have an ult for this one too, so he's in some trouble. Blink will be up in a second for PBM, so there's the Blink into the leap. And Netrioid, this is going to keep happening to him. There's got to be, I think, a little bit more backup for him on the left-hand side. Maybe the punish can come through now. 3 members to lock down PBM. The cage buys him a little bit of time. There will be no help coming, so PolarBearMike is certainly going to die. It's just a question of how long it ends up taking. Panitom gets the credit for it by falling over there with the hammer. But this has been clean by Rival to bully Netrioid.
It's been perfect. They've identified that Netrioid has been phenomenal through the first 2 weeks. He's been a key part of what Sanguine has done in their victories. So let's shut him down. And even when he gets his signature Jing Wei, the safest ADC in the game, that doesn't save you from a really good team who wants to dive and kill you. And it's something that I've said a lot when it comes to SML versus SPL on LAN and things like that, but it's these experienced teams against these less experienced teams. Everyone's got a plan until it gets you get run down, and they just start running it down, each one of your lanes, and they're on your buffs, and they're dashing in, and you have to be ready for it, and I don't know that they are quite yet.
Well, this would be a big fight if Netrioid could win it. Even surviving it, I feel like, has to be enough. And in comes Ronngyu, ready to punish PandaCat in the back. Beads were available for him, so now PandaCat comes into fray, enters stage right, but cannot find much more to try and help out here up against Ronngyu. But I think that's enough from Netrioid. He didn't have beads or the ultimate until later in the fight, and still manages to get away safely.
And PandaCat's beads went down there because of Rongyu's ultimate. So that's a huge win for Sanguine, and you start to see that they are, getting their footing back into this game really quickly, and this is the difference between Sanguine from last year, where Rival does this to them on the world stage, where you come in with a game plan, and then Rival just hits you in the mouth right away, and you lose all sense of what's supposed to be happening in this game. This Sanguine looks like they found their footing. They got rocked a little bit early on, but they're setting their feet a little bit. They're still down 2,500 at 10 minutes. That's a lot in both experience and gold, 3,500 actually in experience. They are down at this point, but certainly not out.
Well, PolarBearMike is lurking like he wants to ask yet another question here for Sanguine, but now with Ronngyu there, likely that will be enough to deter their aggression. But this is the point in the game where I feel like Sanguine has kind of struggled already, and Rival are really trying to accelerate that struggle. I mean, Twig even said in the interview, right, the place where Sanguine is really strong isn't their 5-on-5 team fight, because I don't know if anyone's going to match their coordination and trust that these guys have built up. They've been playing together forever at this point, right? So I think that there is something to be said for their really strong team fight. Rival's trying to fracture that from minute one here in this game by making sure even if they make it to that team fighting stage, it'll be in a weakened state where they're behind.
if you go back and watch a lot of Sanguine's games last year at the minor league level, where do they lose the majority of those? In the early game, where they just got steamrolled a little bit because that coordination is so good. They try and do it again. Ronngyu blinks into a Fields of Love and can't play the game, so he has to back up.
So he ults in place. Panitom dunks down as well. That is a good knockup, but they've been caught out. Ronngyu is certainly going to fall here first. CaptainTwig almost has enough damage to find Panitom. Sam blinks in, can't get it, but Suku over the wall means that the chase continues. Able to get the kill with the Feather Step. It's a double now for Sam for Soccer, and Netrioid continues his trade up against PBM. He should win this one, but PandaCat should be able to get the tier 1 and left. But now Sheento on the Hell has made his way in. Sam for Soccer goes down, and Sanguine at least get 1 kill back.
Mike knows exactly where Sheento is, so he knows PandaCat's free to do a little bit of boxing with Netrioid, but not for long. Airstrike comes through, Panda's in trouble.
Wow, this is just Netrioid feeling himself, isn't it? Setting up the double kill for Sheento, and I think this is why people are starting to get behind Sanguine. Imagine that that's been your opening to the game. You've been getting bodied over there and left this whole time. You just lost Gold Fury, and he still knows his moment, still gets aggressive, puts the pressure on the PandaCat, and sets up for a Sheento double.
Just a bad decision, though, by Rival to chase that out after they lost those few kills. I have no problem with Sam blinking to try and catch up to Panitom, but to jump underneath the tier 2 tower means that he's just going to be in a bad spot after that. To jump underneath the tier 2 tower pulls PBM all the way down in order to body block for him. And that means that PBM is going to need to take a whole lot of damage. And the rotation from Sheento is perfectly timed. He cleans up Sam easily. PBM is trying to box him out so that Panda can continue to get the tier 1 tower on left. I mean, it's an overall win for Rival there. They get a Gold Fury, they get 2 kills, and they get a tier 1 tower in exchange for 3 deaths. On paper, you'd take that trade every time if you're Rival. But what that doesn't say on paper is how unnecessary those deaths really were for Rival. You can get that tier 1 tower later. You can forego the second kill onto the jungler. I'd rather have 1 kill and a Gold Fury and no deaths than 2 kills and a tower and a Gold Fury, and we lose 3 people who had a lead. And a lot of those kills, by the way, went on to the other team's hell.
Yeah, that is the real problem, I'd say, is there's trouble now for Ronngyu. He's been caught out by the Taiko drums. Panitom also has to start looking for the disengage. Had to use purification beads to avoid getting pulled back in. But now fineokay is here. The baby stomping around to the tier 1. Doesn't find much. Rival on the full disengage at this point. But still, this is what they want, right? They got that pick on the Ronngyu. Now they're right back out cleanly. Yeah, they used a couple ultimates, but they're happy for that trade.
And PBM still has Blink Cage available, so even though Sanguine feels like they can stand here and defend, they've got to be careful.
And the one that gets locked in is Jarcorr. They've got this croc in a cage. They do manage to break it, though. Good work from Sheento and Netrioid. I don't know if Jarcorr lives if they don't break those walls down and set up a path for the charge prey out. But Rival want more. Perhaps greedy are the Rival boys here now as they take the tier 1, head back to Pyromancer, get this one quite nicely. And Sanguine, even though they fought well, they've stemmed the bleeding at times, it's starting to feel like maybe it's not enough.
And it feels like Rival's back to the old form where they would get leads last year, and then 1 or 2 things would go a little bit awry. Maybe we get a little bit too aggressive, step up too far, overextend, yada yada. And then there would be that one guy, boost speeds alert in the mid lane. CaptainTwig isn't going to live from that.
Yeah, I think turning yellow at the apex of the pluck is already too late, right? Unfortunately, my man's been caught. So that will be a kill onto CaptainTwig. And really, because of good work from Rival, there's not a lot they could do with it. So Panitom gets aggressive into the enemy jungle. Sam for Soccer is there to try and back up, but he's half HP. Ronngyu finds the knockup for him. Why is all of Sanguine suddenly at my back camps, he's thinking, but that's because they've got a window to try and get aggressive. They shut down 2. But there's still not a lot to grab on this side of the map, so maybe Netrioid can manufacture something by taking down the tier 2, but he's taking the back.
Man, I was just saying that Rival feels like they've got that voice back that's going to reel them back in and set them back at neutral whenever things start to slide away from them. And then they get caught off guard, and I think what actually catches Rival there is that that's not a fight that most other SPL teams take. For example, why in the world is Jarcorr between my tier 1 and tier 2, says CaptainTwig? Because he might kill you if he's there, right? I mean, in that answer has not been enough for SPL teams as of late. There has to be a reason behind all the fighting that they do. And I think that that's better SMITE, but it's another way to get caught off guard when a team like Sanguine, who's still willing to mess you up for the sake of messing you up, is going to do things like that, and then it causes Rival to pull down into their game. to get down into the mud with Sanguine and chase them out on right-hand side. Mike's jumping in because they think Sheento's isolated. That baits Sam in. Rival's doing well when they are the ones setting the pace, but a couple times now, Sanguine has got Rivals humming their tempo instead, and that's when Sanguine has been able to claw back in and make themselves relevant again.
Look at these experience differentials, Ryan. I mean, the carries are doing fine for Sanguine, right? They're even, if not ahead, in Sheento's case after that great rotation. But everyone else, all the frontline, Jarcorr, Panitom, and Ronngyu, all a bit behind. That's why this fight that they're considering around this Gold Fury has got to be risky. No beads for Twig for another 30 seconds, but no relics at all for Sheento. I got to think that he's going to be the focal point of your team rival trying to find a way to take this hell out early. They start up the Fury, they drop it back again. Sanguine are here and stopping them from pulling.
And this is exactly what Sanguine should be doing. They've got great engage between Sobek and Horus, and they've got sustain, and fineokay has not gone particularly tanky. He doesn't have a lot of HP in this build. He's got Toxic Blade very early on. This enables him to dive Sheento better, but it means that he's really squishy to all this initiation. Now he needs a Spirit Robe, in my mind, to try and stop himself from getting blown up off of the Horus combo. But that's got to be something that he's got to be ready for.
Well, Sanguine full reset off their Gold Fury defense. I don't know if they're going to make it in time. It's really only Netrioid nearby. Yes, use Aegis early on as he ends up under duress. Has to use beads as well to get away from the ultimate from Sam for Soccer. And all the while, the Primal Fury has been secured. fineokay mixed up into the Colossal Fury. Meanwhile, PolarBearMike zones everybody out. So Horus takes to the skies, as does Panitom. Perhaps a chance for the re-engage, slamming down the back line, but immediately answered back by fineokay. But Horus has brought the entire posse to the back line to look for more action. They find PandaCat. Netrioid is the one that shuts him down. Now CaptainTwig in some trouble, plucked back, and Netrioid gets the double. They may have lost the Fury, but they got the kills on the back.
Man, I understand what Rival's thought process is right there. PBM blinks in, and he's saying, I'm going to cage to keep everyone back, so don't step up with me. But I don't think that they got the memo not to step up with PBM. And here's the deal. Odin cage, Horus doesn't give a rat's ass about Odin cage, dude. He's going up and over and bringing the whole team with him, and that's immediately into Rival's backline. They were not ready for that to the skies.
Well, this is going to be a critical fight here at the Fire Giant now, aggro. 19 minutes in, and Sanguine, even down, are starting to pull this FG, and it's getting quite low. Who has the confirmation? But they all group up for this big Odin dunk, and now they have to disengage. PolarBearMike, though, is taking a ton of damage from the FG way in the back line, but Rival has done enough. Sanguine are forced to drop the Fire Giant, and the big Bane back-breaking play they were looking for doesn't come to fruition.
Close, but no cigar for Sanguine. They show a lot of restraint on that Fire Giant, because you think, okay, it's an Odin, a Vamana, and an Awilix, and those three are really not going to do enough to kill us all if we get Fire Giant. But if we lose Fire, then we probably just lose the game. Rival already having this pretty substantial gold lead, so they decide to give themselves an out, basically, in this game, because if they finish that Fire or attempt to, that game has the potential to get decided right then and there. This decision allows them to keep trying to fight, which they've done a very good job of so far.
No relics for Netrioid, and Panitom uses his ultimate really early. He gets the desired result, though. Rival back off the objective. He goes for Sam right away on the right-hand side, gets the beads out from him, and Sam is still locked down, even with the help from the relic. And Panitom takes care of the Awilix early on. The ultimate, the Fields of Love, does manage to hit Panitom. I didn't even realize he was in it, but Sheento takes care of Twig. That's a 2-for-1 in favor of Sanguine. The momentum starting to swing back in favor of the boys, and now they've got PandaCat locked down too. Netrioid gets the kill credit, and what is happening here? Rival starting to collapse.
It's as soon as Sanguine groups up as 5, they just work so well as a unit. And this is exactly what Twig was worried about. It sounded like in that pre-game interview, is that this team has so much potential when it comes to the 5-on-5, and their 5-on-5 is just sick. They've got such good engage like this. Sobek pluck directly into Horus CC, and where do you go? If you don't have beads, you're just dead every time. And Jarcorr has been on point with these plucks. The entire team has been there and ready. And now Sanguine, after getting another pick that staggers out Rival, I'd expect them to go to Fire here. Even if it's a 5v4, you feel like you're just taking every fight you can get right now when you've got all 5 grouped up.
The gold lead slowly starting to favor Sanguine more. The momentum in the game slowly starting to favor Sanguine more. Remember, they came into this 2-0. It's hard to say they're on the up when they've never been down. Sanguine feel like one of the teams in the SPL that you must be ready to go the distance with, or you will not find a W. They've got the Fire Giant pulled. Team Rival have 4 members in the area. Sam for Soccer, though, gets forced out right away. Might need to make that 3. But Sheento's on a bit of an island, and fineokay recognize how important he is, but the charge prey gets him out of there, keeps Sheento alive. But the FG has been reset. That should be enough. Now Rival can have all 5 members here shortly once Sam makes it in for this fight.
And Jarcorr just looking for his next victim that he can toss back and get everybody killed with. I mean, Sobek has just been so monumental in just about every set so far this year.
He's been strong. PolarBearMike is the first man in. They just lock him down. The CC chain is entirely too strong. PBM does manage to live, but Ronngyu goes to the sky. He comes back to try and disengage his team out. Meanwhile, Panitom doesn't find much with his ultimate either.
Twig.
Maybe a bit of disjointedness finally, but Twig ends up falling. Jarcorr gets the kill. fineokay enters back and gets rid of Sheento, and that could be the key cog in this machine to take the hell out of it, and maybe Rival can keep up the aggression. They force Panitom and Ronngyu to disengage. Meanwhile, Jarcorr's way in no man's land on the backside of the fight. Rival have stalled this FG out once again.
But man, I mean, that fight was going so well because of CaptainTwig. He did so much damage there that it sent all of Sanguine scattering, and then he just forgets he's mid lane again and jumps into everybody and insta-dies, even using both relics. I think they win that fight without Twig jumping in there. With him jumping in, it really puts a damper on how big this win is for Rival. It really slows their momentum.
Jarcorr is definitely going to die here, having a little bit of fun, I think, recognizing the futility of trying to escape in that position. Netrioid has been zoned out by fineokay, who's not letting him back either. I think this is all in the service of trying to stagger Sanguine's defense for this next FG fight, Ryan, and put themselves to a position where they can finally be the aggressors onto it. Sanguine clawed their way back in. Remember, Rival had like a 4,000 to 5,000 golden experience lead they'd built up very patiently over the entirety of the early game, but Sanguine clawed back towards this relevancy. If Rival can get this FG, they'll have reclaimed their lead again.
I just feel like this Awilix has not panned out for Sam for Soccer because Sanguine has just been sprinting at her the entire time. It's been pluck whoever you want back in because I'm plucking you with the Sobek every single engagement. Sam has never been able to dictate his terms in a 5v5.
Fire Giant's incredibly low, down below 3,000. Panitom takes to the sky, but Rival have already gotten the objective. Panitom dunks in anyway. He goes right for PandaCat in the backline, who does not have beads. Ronngyu is in the air too, but Sheento, how does he end up left all alone? Panitom falls as well, and Sam for Soccer, as soon as you said his name, Ryan, ends up getting the double. Rival can continue the snowball waterfall effect. They take down the tier 2 tower and right, and I think they should keep barging right on through to the Phoenix.
They can end the game here, Finch. I'm pretty sure. I mean, 40 seconds on 2 of the most critical members. There are a lot of tower standing, so this Titan's going to be tanky, and they don't have a wave, so actually I don't think they can end. If they had a wave here, I think that's game, but without one, they're probably going to have to back it up. But that's the first time that Rival's front line has been anywhere near as cohesive as Sanguine's up until this point, and look at the result. Panitom finds PandaCat with no beats at all in the back line and doesn't feel confident enough to full combo him because he knows he'll get all in and killed. Because he's expecting, okay, if I do 70% of his health, my boys will come in, my Sobek will be here, my Horus. Fellas, where are you? And they're all trying to help Sheento and Netrioid in the back line, but Sam, Fine, and PBM just 3v4 so well on top of this hell that there's no way anyone can get in there to help out Panitom. And then he's hammering towards where he thinks his team is, and they're somewhere back there, but there's a big beefy front line in between you and them, and they're easily able to turn around and kill the Thor in response.
Sanguine have played well, though, this game, despite maybe wavering a bit on the execution on that final Fire Giant fight we just saw a moment ago. I say final, but who knows? This game could certainly continue to go on the most recent Fire Giant fight is better spoken. And they've even reclaimed the kill lead at this point, have Sanguine. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of impressed here with this play. I know they've gotten to the point now where we should be looking at them as favorites instead of just surprising when they do well. But they were behind in this game to a really good Rival that appeared to be back in sync. And I think that Sanguine did a good job kind of forcing Rival off kilter, so to speak.
A whole lot. I mean, this game looks like it could be over very quickly in the early game, but Sanguine really centered around this engagement was perfect.
PolarBearMike has gotten 3 members in the cage. Charge Prey throws him back. Panitom wants to go right to the back line, though. He wants CaptainTwig. That's decent damage. The hammer chunks them all quite low, but fineokay underneath the Phoenix is diving. Sheento. PandaCat takes care of Jarcorr as well, and sometimes fineokay just has to make the plays. He's able to take care of Netrioid too. And maybe slightly premature last time, Ryan, but this time I think you might be able to call the end of this one. Rival with the deicide. Take care of Sanguine.
Yeah, when the enemy solo laner gets to kill your mid and ADC and take literally no damage in the process, things are going pretty well for him. Fine stomps out this game literally on the Vamana right there, but it's just that front line from Rival finally coalesced and came together and started playing really, really well towards the end, because there was that time in the middle where Jarcorr and Ronngyu were just setting up everything, and that's what that Sanguine comp was designed to do. It's not great overall CC, it's phenomenal single target CC. And I think as soon as Rival realized that they can pluck that guy, but if the rest of us just run in and rush him, what are they going to do? They could only CC one of us with Horus, they could only CC one of us with Jing or Sobek pluck. Who cares if they pluck PBM? fineokay and Sam are going to go right in with him and just demolish that backline that steps up to follow up off of that CC. And I think once Rival made that adjustment, Sanguine wasn't able to really counteract it.
It's worth talking about Sanguine's high execution sort of chase down comp as well, between Panitom on the Thor and Ronngyu with the Tip Skies. Once that coordination started breaking down a bit, Rival looked a lot better in that category as well. But that is only game 1. I can only hope that game 2, and please, a game 3 will be just as exciting. Let's get it back over to the desk and have them break it down.
And as promised, I think, between Sanguine and Rival are able to get it done. And you know who's starting to see a lot of play? Aphrodite's starting to see a lot of play. And you know, you have to pick up Susano if Aphrodite's in there. Queue up with your favorite duo. And do it in style. Knights of the Storm, Susano. He's available in the Sword Hero chest right now. So jump into game, take a look at some of those Sword Hero chests, and maybe queue up with your favorite Aphrodite. Mifflin's still with me to talk about game number 1, and Miff, maybe a look back at what we are used to seeing from Rival and maybe Sanguine of old, where the early game falters, they kind of keep things together with clean, coordinated team fighting, but towards the end, it's Rival, a little bit cleaner, able to take game 1.
Yeah, the SMITE community has a short-term memory. I mean, Rival's been known for as long as time itself that they are completely dominant in the early game. I mean, 10 minutes in, Rival was 4,000 gold up. I think they peaked at around 6,000 gold at 20 minutes, but power to them. Sanguine, the entire time, they're winning team fights despite the gold deficit. They took repeated team fights around the gold Fury. They took a fight around the Fire Giant. They won that as well. But unfortunately, fineokay near the end there was nigh unstoppable on this Vamana, literally allowed to do whatever he wanted on the map, as Aggro pointed out, soloed the mid laner as well as the ADC. I mean, Fine took what was working for Sanguine, which was their team fight phase, and he removed 2 pieces consistently and just didn't allow them to play.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is a massive play down the stretch in order to turn things around. And I am curious now, Mifflin. I mean, you look at what worked so well for Sanguine over the first 2 weeks of this one. Didn't work out here in game 1, and I'm specifically looking at that duo lane. I think Sanguine are used to playing, or maybe got used to playing with a big lead coming out of the early game, and then the clean, consistent team fighting that they're known for has just been easier because they have a big lead. I wonder if Sanguine now, maybe realizing that Rival kind of have that matchup figured out, I wonder if they stick with the Jing Horus.
I'm not so sure that we're going to see a change of plans. I mean, as I said earlier, around the 20-minute mark, Sanguine was still looking good despite the deficit, so it seems like their plan could still work out. Unfortunately, fineokay, again, just played completely cracked and just shut down everything that they had going for them. I mean, they played very well, Sanguine that is, around the hell in mid. They team fought perfectly and peeled out consistently, making sure that Panitom was left uncontested. I mean, around the 15-minute mark, no one had dove hell even a single time. She was 3-0 on the slash line. I think there are definitely chances for Sanguine to continue their play style and not have to make too much adaptations, just clean it up a little bit in the early game.
Yeah, and Sheento found some great rotations that resulted in a few kills for him. Quick thoughts, though. I mean, we've kind of glossed over it. Maybe a quick microscope. What worked so well for Rival in that early game? Obviously, PBM having Blink on an Odin and no beads being burnt on a Jingwei. That tends to help. What worked for Rival?
What worked for Rival was purely just their aggression. I mean, in the early game, they were playing inside the enemy red buff. They were playing inside the purple. They did a very good job of exploiting the duo side of the map and allowing fineokay to free farm on the other side, just shifting all the focus towards that gold fury side of the map, allowed for them to shut down that early aggression that is so signature of Sanguine's squad. I think that they played the map incredibly well.
And I kind of want to piggyback on something Finch said, and I tend to agree with, is, I think maybe Sanguine of old, I mean, this is all last year, used to maybe being a little bit weaker in the early game, and then just recently they've been so overwhelming maybe in the mid game because that early game has worked out, at least in the long lane and in the jungle as well. So Rival, I think, being able to mitigate that, kept things a little bit closer, and it just took some cleaner Fire Giant fighting from Rival to really give them the win. But that's game number 1. Picks and bans for game number 2 on your screen now. And no large changes, at least in the first couple of bans. But when you look at 2 and 3 for Sanguine, both Thor and Odin, who saw some play in game number 1, will be taken away. Persephone and Merlin as well from Rival. So no surprise really from Rival's side. But Sanguine, realizing that Odin and Thor maybe a little bit too much to leave up, they're going to lock in Serqet in the jungle for themselves.
That's a high-pressure jungler, a lot of pick potential out of the Serqet. I think it's worth pointing out that Rival is still electing to ban out this Yemoja. It's something we've seen the rest of the pros shift away from, but I do like this ban into Sanguine because we know that Ronngyu is incredibly comfortable on Yemoja. So that is a targeted ban. It might not be a fan of the meta quite as much anymore.
Ooh.
Rival, going to go ahead and steal away that Horus. I love that.
Yeah, I guess there's a such thing as a targeted pick as well, right? I mean, you maybe target out a specific ban, and Rival, I expect big things out of PBM on this Horus, and I think it's kind of, I like to call them two-pronged picks, where I think it's going to be great here for Rival. I believe PBM can play it to its fullest potential, and also getting that out of the hands of Ronngyu for Sanguine. I think it's a double win here for Rival. You do have to be careful, though. A lot of what kept Sanguine in that game was Sheento on this hell, and they're going to run back the Jingwei as well for Netrioid. So while Rival have change some stuff up, they get the Ullr as well. Sanguine sticking with what's worked with them through the first couple of weeks.
Netrioid picking Jingwei, I would have never seen it coming. On the other end, I mean, this Ullr Horus lane, that's so much kill potential. You think Jingwei and Horus look good together. Wait until a hail of arrows, bladed arrows, he throws an axe at your mouth.
Man.
There's so many ways for Ullr to get this aggression that he's going to be able to shift the focus from Sanguine towards trying to stop his rollout. I think PandaCat's looking to play completely dominantly in the lane and is going to create space for this Raijin to farm out and hit that late game pace a lot more quickly.
I'm very curious, though, where Sanguine goes now. We've only seen this Jingwei with the Horus as of late, so Ronngyu and Sanguine are going to have to take a different direction in that long lane, and I wonder, kind of going off of your point, I mean, you talk about kill potential of Horus and Ullr. Do you lean into that and try to continue to duel? It didn't work out for you in game number 1, or do you maybe try to pick something a little bit more passive here to pair with your Jingwei? What would your mindset maybe be if you're Sanguine looking for your support?
I'm definitely looking for something that's more disengaged focused, like maybe even a Geb to keep this hell alive in the lane, or even a Khepri, something more passive in lane. And that's some of the benefit that Jingwei brings. Yes, she has this huge CC tool that's going to set her up with her huge stims and her 3 and 2, but she can also play incredibly passive in lane, one of the safest hunters possible, the CC immunity on the ultimate, the mobility that she has, as well as the ability to return to base whenever she wants and fly back into lane. So having him play more passively, Netrioid that is, isn't going to be a huge loss for Sanguine, but it is going to shift their focus in the early game, especially considering this is a team that we expect to see get the majority of their game rolling out of that long lane.
Absolutely, and plenty of picks still on the board. Xing, certainly one that could come to mind. We have seen him in the solo lane a little bit, so Sanguine will have to reveal the rest of those cards to us here. Susano, though, for Rival, I mean, I open up the desk for set number 2 talking about Knight of Storms, Susano, and a jungler that started to see a little bit more play. But with Sanguine locking in Osiris, that'll likely be up in that solo lane. Do you like the Xing with where your mindset sort of was to pair with Jingwei in that long lane?
Xing brings a lot in terms of disengage. He's got a decent amount of lockdown and an ultimate that's going to make it a little bit less appetizing for this Ullr to play as aggressively as he might like. Jumping in might not be an option once level 5 rolls around as well. He's going to be Xing rather is going to be able to take away some of that auto attack damage that Ullr has, so he won't be able to follow up on the stuns quite as well. But again, Xing is going to be a pretty easy target for Susano to close the gap on. Once those jumps are down, Horus and Susano's lockdown is going to be absolutely insane. It's going to be interesting to see.
Well, for the first time this season, Sanguine suffered a loss in game number 1. Can Rival make it 2? Let's jump in and find out.
Their undefeated streak a bit on the line there, huh, Dolson? It's Finch and Aggro on the cast as we move into game number 2. And already it's aggression from Rival in the jungle. PandaCat is on this Ullr in the long lane. And I know Netrioid likes to play this Jing way, kind of sit back and get to the team fighting stage. But Ullr and Horus are going to make that tough on you.
Man, you want to talk about kill potential in the duo lane. It's heavy in favor of Rival, and as a result, I don't think they're going to be letting Sanguine do their own purple.
Oh, Fine is here.
In this instance. Fine is here as well, and has that teleport ready to just go back to lane if necessary. I wonder if Fine got spotted on this ward where PBM and PandaCat are walking, though.
Oh, well, they definitely should see them now, and that's why Sanguine are giving up on starting at the purple buff entirely. They're going to send Netrioid over to lane, and then Ronngyu, if he can, will try and contest this objective. I'm still not sure if they know that fineokay is actually here at this point. So, yeah, Ronngyu should be able to secure it. They give up on the chase. fineokay TP's back to the tier 2. It looks like can get to the blue buff in time and gives up a little bit on this first wave. I don't know, Aggro. They really didn't get much out of this. I don't know if this is exactly that great of a use of their early.
No, but I don't know that it really hurts them that much either at the same time, where, yes, fineokay uses his teleport, but you forced Ronngyu to solo purple. Netrioid got no experience for that, whereas Ronngyu misses all of the first wave for the most part, and PandaCat is now soloing his purple, so he's going to get a lot of experience. He's going to be very far ahead of Netrioid right now, depending on how many minions he misses here in the second wave. Looks like he'll miss all 3 melees and maybe an archer. No, he's going to get all 3 archers. So Panda's going to be very far ahead of Netrioid. And I love what Mike's doing. No reason for him to stick around. I'm just going to go and help out on a red buff invade, and then I'll come back whenever I feel like there's kill potential.
He is now back. Still level 1 is PolarBearMike, as you illustrated. PandaCat, really the beneficiary of the start. fineokay appeared to be a little bit behind that last time, but now that you look at him directly compared to Jarcorr, yeah, he is a bit further away, but really not significantly. I think that for the most part, as long as you're okay with PolarBearMike being a little bit behind, which considering the old invade strats, he definitely were, then this start not too bad for Team Rival here at all. PandaCat would love to try and get a kill or something here, get this Transcendence online as soon as possible, and really start looking to bully Netrioid.
This is where I'm surprised, though, is that PandaCat is willing to start clearing this wave right here. I think that if there's not a whole lot for you to do, unless you feel like you can get the enemy, Big Harpy right here, the Big O as it's called, what are you really... Yeah, it is. Do you have to question that, man? I mean, it's the Big O. That's what it's called. If you can't be getting the enemy Big O, why are you even pushing this wave? Start to freeze this and pull them all the way up the lane. Now, looks like Sanguine might have helped you out by starting to clear themselves.
So that's the blink. Netrioid has already been grabbed. Hail of Arrows does land. Gets in range with the leap, but that's good patience from Netrioid. He's able to make it back out of there. Sam, who I thought had completed the back, must have stuck around instead. Comes back in. Doesn't find much here, so they'll settle for the purple buff invade. They're keeping up this pressure, though, in left and making life hard on Netrioid and Ronngyu.
But look at where Panitom is. He's on the right, knowing that this is not a contestable lane. When your duo lane and ranked is spamming for ganks that they need help, and you press tab and you realize their duo lane is Horus Ullr, you go, yeah, you don't have a purple buff anymore. That's their secondary purple buff, but we can start to put pressure on the right-hand side. Panitom goes over there, invades on blue, sets Jarcorr a little bit ahead, keeps fineokay a little bit down. This is especially taxing whenever you know fineokay doesn't have that teleport up at this point. But this is why duo pressure is more important, is what we literally just saw, is that there's a second buff on the left-hand side that's worth more and is more easily invaded than the second buff on the right-hand side. In the early game, that red buff is critical in giving you clear potential and fight potential, and it's so much easier to invade than speed. So you can get all the blue buff invades you want if you're against Rival, it seems like, but if they're getting your purple and your red, they are going to pull ahead eventually.
I don't know that Sheento's gotten to get a red buff yet. I think this is the second time at least they've stolen the red from him on the side of Team Rival. So they've been having a pretty nice start here to this early game in terms of getting exactly what they want with this pressure here on the left-hand side. And Panitom has done kind of what you'd expect, right? To go to the other side to try and balance that pressure right back out. It's just a question of overall, is it going to be enough? Because even though Rival are going to come out ahead, it's not like a ton. It's more about where they're sort of allocating that pressure. And right now they're trying to allocate it towards Sheento in the middle lane. Typhoon wasn't enough, but CaptainTwig gets it with the Taiko drums, pulls Panitom back in as well. I don't know if Sam realized maybe they had a chance to put a little bit more damage into him, but Panitom ends up falling, or not Panitom, but Sheento, and Rival get first blood.
And that's Sheento being behind from not having red buffs. It means that Sam and Twig know that they just deal more damage because our mid laner has red and theirs doesn't at this point. As soon as Twig hits those purple boots power spike, level 5 at the time, you know you're just outright stronger than the stance switcher who doesn't have a true ultimate, who's hitting level 5. It's just really good identification of power spikes so far.
PolarBearMike will allow for PandaCat to get the lane by himself, try to steal the purple, but there's backup there this time. And I think this is what might have been missing a little bit here from Sanguine. I don't know that it necessarily has to be Sheento, but I feel like at least one more presence has to come over and try and help. That one's easier that time because it's kind of just PBM on his own. PandaCat stays in lane, and they have that 3v1, 3v2 if PandaCat rotates, but they can't keep letting these buffs go down for free.
No, and this time Sam's back timing is a little bit different than this red buff spawn, so that's going to be 2 buffs in a row that Sanguine get. But Rival still has timer because they had wards on both buffs when they went down, so that doesn't mean that they can't just resume the running it down on the next buff spawn. They'll be able to do that pretty easily should they so choose, and I think they will because this is a good opportunity for them to keep on fighting. The fact that they don't go for the red buff invade or the purple buff invade in earnest when they know Sheento's purification beads are down, feels like a little bit of a wasted opportunity. It's pretty hard to be on time for every purple and every red every single time, but that one felt like it was more important than some of the others.
Panitom again showing presence in right, but this time Sam for Soccer is here too, and there's really no buffs up on this side of the map either, so if everything goes the way it should, everyone should just be returning back to that point when they're farming. So now I think we have the age-old question, aggro, which is 6.5 minutes in. Is this the right pace that Rival are setting to be able to overcome eventually this hell, which we've seen when it was a hell, we saw when it was an Aphrodite. They are plenty potent in the late game and can just be win conditions. Has this pace been enough from Rival?
I think so, because I think Rival's late game is significantly better than Sanguine's everywhere but the mid lane, and Raijin is still one of the best mid lane mages come late game anyways. You look at what you're going to have in solo lane, I'd much rather have Achilles late game than Osiris. I'd rather have Susano by a country mile over Serqet, so this comp scales well.
fineokay is in a whole mess of trouble. Does manage to get a 2-man stun, but the tether stun is there too. So no world fineokay survives that one. 3 members rotated over to grab the kill. So at the very least, Sam for Soccer invades the purple, puts some pressure onto PandaCat, leap over the wall, onto Netrioid, nearly enough for the kill. Forces the beads out too, but Sam can just loop around. I don't know if Netrioid can get this back off, and that should be enough for the kill with the dot. That's why Sam is leaving. Rival do manage to punish that gank on the fineokay.
Remember, Finch, cool guys don't look at kills that they know they got with dot damage. It's a really catchy phrase, I know. It's going to catch on eventually. But that's all PandaCat.
You just thought of that, right?
Yeah, just now. I think it works pretty well in this instance, too. PandaCat's just nuts, dude. I mean, a perfect axe follows airstrike over the wall. I mean,
that's
give
hard
me
to
a
do.
break. That is nearly impossible for the average man, but PandaCat is no average man. He's a PandaCat, I guess, is where this bit is logically concluding, but I'm not super pleased with it.
I don't know if you saw, his tweet earlier today, but he said that, he's so successful he could buy the bank that owns your home and then foreclose on it. PandaCat he's elevated to a new level, and while we're being glib, I do think that sometimes he goes a bit undervalued, right? I mean, across the last 3 years, he is, for me, in my top 3 of most consistent players in the league, man, and he's looking to get aggressive here yet again. They wait on Netrioid to dash, and there's no way the Jing can make it out without the ultimate. Another clean kill.
And that's what Ullr does, dude. If you're not just jumping on people with Ullr, you're probably doing it wrong, because that's what this character, he just does more damage than anybody else at any given time. Ronngyu does a good job of forcing CaptainTwig's ult in mid just by being aggressive in jumping on top of him. But this is why Ullr is so good. You don't have beats, I'm jumping, and we'll see what you can do. Now, Netrioid's solid, persistent gust placement actually forced PandaCat to pre-beads it so that he could make sure he landed the axe, but of course he did. And so it still ends up being a kill.
But as Netrioid, I think, has done, there's been a lot of concerted pressure into a Jing Wei, but he has not made it easy for Rival, has he? I feel like every time they've rotated over, it's been at least somewhat costly, right? Netrioid does make them pull the credit card out of their wallet at least and swipe it before they get that kill. So I think that he's done at least what he can in that regard, as CaptainTwig has now had his ultimate and his beads forced out. He's going to have to be careful moving around in the jungle.
A little surprised that Sheento or Panitom doesn't keep that dive going, because the dive is happening now onto Sheento, and he somehow survives with a sliver of HP, but Panitom not as lucky.
Yeah, I can't say the same for him. PandaCat has now leaped out of there. Netrioid used the airstrike to disengage, so Ronngyu, the one stuck in the wrong part of town. PandaCat gets a one more kill. Lord of the Afterlife from Jarcorr about a half hour late. I don't know if maybe his clocks were still set to Central Time or something like that, but recognizing he needs to disengage. Now it's Rival's turn to start getting aggressive. They're going to head right back over towards the Gold Fury, and I don't see a world where Sanguine can contest this.
Netrioid's like, I'm not getting anywhere near that Ullr, man. I've got no ultimate. No way I'm getting my hands dirty there. And this is what we saw from Rival in Game 1, was when they're clean, they are just steamrolling Sanguine. Now it's a matter of staying clean and making sure that they don't fall into that same trap that they did last game. By the way, gotta give credit to Twig. They kill Panitom in mid there when Sheento barely escapes, because he caught like frame 3 of deathbait from Panitom with his jump and mezzed him out of it. And that's the only reason they kill Panitom, which is the only reason they get to continue to do all of that aggression and ultimately end up at Gold Fury. Save for the one absolutely mind-boggling jump in at Fire Giant last game. I think Twig has played really, really well.
fineokay again is in some trouble, weaves his way out of there with that fatal strike and gets some healing from PBM. And now CaptainTwig is here to make them pay. He is able to get the kill into Panitom. Ronngyu takes a ton of damage from PandaCat, who's swinging at this point too. So Sanguine fully acquiesce. And man, fineokay has done a great job here too, because he has not gotten a lot of help, right? He's kind of been the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, of all this pressure in left. And 0-1-1 hardly feels like a sacrificial lamb scoreline. He's done a great job.
Jarcorr is going to be the sacrificial lamb here. I don't think he's getting out of that. But you're right, save for the one death, Fine has done very well. And look at this role swap. They know that Netrioid can't play the game up against the Ullr, and PandaCat really can't afford to be standing on tier 2 tower. So they're going to let Panda come over here and exert this pressure on the right-hand side, get more pressure for Rival across the map, and get fineokay some actually pretty needed farm. Even though he's been the sacrificial lamb and has only died once, he's actually bottom net worth on his team because of all that pressure. So let's just send him over to duo lane where there's not going to be a lot of contest right now with Gold Fury down, and give him some solo waves for free.
Well, he's been losing a lot of his blue buffs, right? That's kind of what I was alluding to. I mean, he's done well, right. I think, for it to only be this bad, the spot that Fine is in right now. And I like this, too, because it also puts PandaCat, the role swap, it puts him on the side where the current neutral objective is, which is the Pyromancer. And even though I don't think they get a chance to make a play there, you can see how it pulls Sanguine over to that side of the map. I don't know that PandaCat's going to stay over there once Fury's up, but I think right now in this downtime, once you've gotten the objective, put your lead over here to threaten the next one. And I really like what Rival been doing here with this swap.
Yeah, we're kind of going through a whole lot of hoops to figure out why exactly they're doing this, but ultimately I'm pretty sure this reasoning is really simple. The equation is simply where PandaCat is where we want to fight. And if we feel like we might want to fight in solo lane, PandaCat should be there, because the man is 2-0-3 and already has his third item done, and is absolutely massive at this point. I think that this is just a pretty simple one. Go where the Ullr wants to fight you, and I think that that's around this Pyromancer.
That's worked for them well. fineokay still in the long lane from now, getting some farm, but he's not pushing it up too far. It looks like even Fine doesn't really want to have the wave all the way up at that tier 2 tower line for now. Rival, though, continuing to get aggressive, looking for an axe on the Ronngyu, can't find much there. But without this Fury up, without them posturing for Pyromancer, I think the Rival are kind of putting on the brakes, at least for a moment. I say that, but then PolarBearMike blinks in aggressively, gets Ronngyu to use the ultimate in order to disengage, and now they can come right back over to Pyro because all 5 members are here. Sanguine gonna have a tough time answering.
fineokay actually backs and doesn't have teleport up, or well, nearly backed and didn't have teleport up, so decides to stick around wisely just in case. And this is the Rival that we saw last year. It's clockwork.
Yeah.
We go, PBM goes in, we poke that guy out, we get his ultimate. Not even a wasted breath. They all turn and back towards Pyro, all in sync. And that's been the biggest difference. It seems like with another week of scrims under their belt and another week of SPL competition, Sam looks very comfortable. Who's, by the way, I know we're singing the praises of fineokay treading water and Twig and obviously PandaCat and this Ullr. Sam's been a part of every kill so far for Rival, and it's been all across the map, and he's played everyone mechanically really well. He looks like he's returning to form. Everyone looks more comfortable with one another on Rival, and that's to be expected. It's going to take some time. This still is nowhere near the quote-unquote final form for Rival in this roster, but this is the team, shades of it at least, that you expect to go far this year.
Yeah, this is Fuse with Nail, not Fuse with Kami. I did a Dragon Ball Z reference, but I went Piccolo instead of Frieza there. That's how I come at it from a different angle, Aggro. You got to respect that. And you got to respect Sanguine going for the FG, and I don't think that Rival recognized that this one's happening because they are not here on this side of the map. The Fire Giant is down to half. PolarBearMike now starting to sense it. He goes up to the skies. He might be able to make it into contest. FG under 3,000 at this point. Sanguine got to burn it, but in comes the ultimate. Sam for Soccer is here as well. Airstrike comes out too early. Sanguine get the Fire Giant. Panitom takes care of Sam for Soccer as well. Sanguine pulling the Houdini, stealing the Fire Giant when Rival aren't looking.
That is clutch for Sanguine, and Finch, somehow it's only a 2,000 gold deficit now.
Right.
This is Sanguine in a great spot. This game looked to be wrapping up shortly, and I'm not saying it's completely even anymore, but that is massive for Sanguine, and what a call. It's just, we may as well try, because things aren't going our way when we're 5v5ing right now. They lose a couple members, or really only lose one member. It's only Jarcorr, and now they have priority on this Gold Fury pull, this Primal Fury. This could put them basically even in this game, but they've got to protect Sheento in particular. No beads for him, and he's going to be a key target here for Rival.
I think I'm on board now, man. This Sanguine team is just fun to watch at the end of the day, right? I can't think of any other way to describe these guys. They're willing to shoot for the fences. This Gold Fury fight is kicking off too. PBM takes a little bit of damage, but they're backing off for now. This is how close, though, that Fire Giant was. Sanguine only just barely secured it. And that's really because PBM's head was on a swivel and he was on Horus. I don't know if any other support gets in there to even give them a chance to strip that away.
It's true, and Sanguine do the right thing. They just say, we'll 50-50 this, because we're way less than 50% on winning this game from this position. Just a smart call.
They will take down the Primal Fury, and that does inch this game closer to even. A kill into PolarBearMike doesn't hurt either. Now it's only a 1,000 gold deficit, and this is the thing with Sanguine. They are constantly trying to buy time until they can do this. Run around as a 5-man unit, all in range of this Hell Inspire that she's using to try and heal the whole squad. Now they're going to trade the tier 2s, perhaps. Sam for Soccer and fineokay stay in mid, but they can't get it on their own. It looks like the tier 2 tower and left's going to come down. Sanguine now taking the gold lead, gonna start threatening on the left side, Phoenix. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Sanguine are backing up. They're not that crazy.
Man, you're right. I don't even know why Sanguine queues Conquest most of the time. It feels like they just want to play Arena and just run around as 5 and just stomp people all the time, because that's really been their play style. It's just that Rival has looked so clean, and then again, they make a mistake. It seems like PBM wants to go in and contest, but the rest of the team doesn't. Losing PBM means it's an easy couple tower siege. fineokay overstays on this right-hand side. He's going to end up falling now. It staggers these deaths over and over and over again for Rival. And it just feels like it's, okay, they finally did it. They're in sync. But in reality, that's not how in a team environment works, a workplace environment. There's no switch flipped where, okay, we're never on different pages anymore. We figured it out, guys. We've done it. It's that you have to do it over and over and over again. And it just seems like there's one or two of these moments a game where players are on different pages, and it just so happens that Sanguine is a good enough team that they have punished Rival for that every single time.
Wow, they're just a unit moving around the map together. Now they're gobbling up the tier 2 tower, stealing away the speed buff. Got the kill on the fineokay, who was way out of position on the order side of the map. And Sanguine are now in the lead with a composition centered around this hell. Netrioid in the late game building that crit as well to do plenty of damage. I mean, look at the charts. Swinging all the way down for Rival, and they're all the way back up in terms of gold and experience. They're absolutely right back in this game.
Oh, look at this, though. Rival trying to catch Sheento. He's completely isolated. Only Jarcorr nearby, but he's not going to be able to get him. And Sanguine get a taste of their own medicine. That To the Skies ultimate stops their momentum in its tracks, and it just so happens there's a wave here for Rival to take this tier 2 tower at the same time.
That really does hurt Sanguine, man. That takes some of the wind out of their sails. That's one of those critical cards in the house of cards there for Sanguine, having Sheento up. Now, the good news is there's not a lot on the map for Rival to really hurt them with. They get that tier 2 tower, that gold, and opening up the map is nice, but there wasn't a Fury to go grab. Fire Giant is still 30 seconds away. Sheento should be up on the map and at least nearby by the time that starts to get pulled as well, even though Rival will be entrenched in their position. It's not the worst time for that death on the Sheento, but is there a good time? I'd argue no.
No, I don't think so, but as far as times that you can get away with it, it's basically right now. Fire's not up until after he's on the map. Sanguine are now even in this game, completely. That is
I can't believe
crazy to think about. Just 5 minutes ago, it looked like Rival was, finishing up the bow on top of this game, but Sanguine burst out of the present and realized that they still had some fight left still in them. They're the ones who really have priority here, it feels like, because they have the hell. They still have this hell, and I know I said I like Rival's late game more, and I still do, but it's always, I like the Rival composition more, but that hell is going to be a problem. There's always that but that you have to be able to address here when there's a hell on the other team.
And the anti-heal is here for Rival, right? 2 Brawlers, Beat Sticks, the Divine Ruin, the upgraded Cursed Ankh is there as well. No Contagion or Pestilence, so there's still room for a bit more to come out in that regard for Team Rival, but they've got plenty to mitigate Sheento, and clearly if they can isolate him, he can be taken down. It's just a question of do they Voltron together and put Sheento in the center. Forced into the Taiko drums is CaptainTwig. Panitom jumped on him for pressure. This is an awkward engagement, but that's where Sanguine sometimes thrives, right? How many times have you practiced this kind of fight, Rival? Because Sanguine are comfortable. fineokay down to half HP already, but Panitom is low. He'll back up and start getting healed. That's the Thunder Crash from CaptainTwig. He might be a bit of a sitting duck now. Grabbed and thrown back to the wolves. Sheento gets the kill as he falls early. It's a double. Sam for Soccer falls as well, and this is what I mean. Sanguine will bring you down here and beat you with experience.
Panitom gonna look for PandaCat, but it's Sheento who's grabbed himself the triple kill. fineokay is looking ripe for the quadra kill here for the enemy hell. And Sanguine do it again. It is the quadra kill for Sheento. And who cares about this Fire Giant? Mid-Phoenix and probably the Titan are on Sanguine's mind.
But Ryan, that's such an odd fight. Like, why is that fight even happening there? And these are the moments where I feel like Twig is still not used to the middle lane.
I completely agree. He a little bit of panic with that ultimate, knowing that Panitom can jump on him in a position that he probably shouldn't be in the first place on that red buff. And then he jumps in thinking that the whole fight is disengaged when it clearly was not going to be. That is, you got to keep Twig off gods with jumps in. Maybe that's the plan. Give him a mobile mages so that he can't get himself in that situation. Luckily for Rival, it's only 22 minutes into the game, so those respawn timers are very short. But now they've lost to Mid-Phoenix. They've lost every single relic for the most part. I mean, this is not a good spot for them to be in.
And Rival are going to start up the Fire Giant during this. This is the back end of Sheento's triple in the big screen, but in the bottom, Rival have that Fire Giant down to about half HP, and Sanguine are on their way in to contest. The Lord of the Afterlife comes out from Jarcorr as well, as they want to keep the action kicking. Rival on the full disengage at this point, so they won't be able to sneak away the FG. Sanguine, on the other hand, do a good job defending it. and keeping this game not just even, but in their favor.
Critical use of Sanguine's map presence, knowing that they can get a lot of people here faster than we anticipate. But the last 2 fights, it's all been centered around Sheento's sustain. That fight around Gold Fury and Red Buff where Rival feels like they're winning, they jump in and there's no chance for them to win that team fight. It's because of Sheento's hell. This fight around Fire Giant, they've got a back. They're too low. They just won a team fight and got mid-Phoenix. No way they can still be here. Sheento's health is the big differentiator in this game. Now they get another Fire Giant, and Rival get the most bitter Gold Fury of all time, I imagine, in exchange. They aren't happy with that trade at all.
No, that's medicine that does not go down well, I'd imagine. Rival hold the kill lead, but Sanguine have a 2,000 gold lead. They've got the Hell, and they've got all the momentum at this point with the Fire Giant buff around their waist. There's a couple of them grouped up in right, but I feel like there's a little bit of indecision here from Sanguine about where they want to go. They got plenty of time. They don't have to rush necessarily, but just giving what we can see, we know this tier 2 tower was theirs. They'll still grab it either way. Rival are not going to come out and really play much defense at this point. Looks like the Chaos team much more happy to just bunker down and defend under Phoenixes.
They've got pretty decent Phoenix defense. Typhoon makes a lot of noise on the Phoenix defense, and Raijin does as well, and Twig has hit that 5-item mark. He's done a lot of damage so far this game. You can't take that away from him.
Well, they know fineokay's over the wall. That's why Panitom steps forward. Ronngyu gets aggressive too, and the Phoenix takes a bit of poke. And they've got Fire Giant sustain and Hell sustain and Fire Minions coming down middle lane. They can do this all day. In fact, Panitom gets aggressive, forces the beads out from Sam. That is the blink and the last breath on cooldown. But Jarcorr gets aggressive. Blink tether. You don't see that all the time, but that's the initiation. Forces Twig into the Tycho drums. And Rival have done enough to force the disengage for now. But it's still FG. It's still a Hell. Sanguine will be right back.
Cursed Ankh? Sweet. We'll wait. Oh, Anti-Heal, Divine Ruin? Sweet. We'll wait. You know, it doesn't matter. We might lose this left Phoenix, sure, but Sanguine's got game-ending potential on this siege.
And that's what they're trying to make sure. They're forcing Rival to stay here for this fight where Sanguine feels favored, but Ronngyu gets locked down into the Phoenix, takes a ton of pressure. The left Phoenix, just to give you an update, is still okay for now. It only took about half HP, so that means Sanguine can just heal Ronngyu up and give this another try, and Rival have to keep having perfect answers.
Sam still has his ult. I mean, everyone's ult is still up on Rival, save for CaptainTwig, so they aren't completely defenseless here. And this is where you start to see the prowess of Raijin and Ullr, poke gods, on this defense. Even though they've got great sustain, they have to wait until the anti-heal wears off. They don't want to all-in commit. It just forces them to reevaluate a whole lot.
And this Warden lane is good too. Rival always know how serious Sanguine are about any disengage. And Sanguine are back in again. Jarcorr and Ronngyu go in first. Right side Phoenix is already low. Right side Phoenix is down. Sanguine, though, have to do something about the mid Phoenix. That has respawned, and Rival are currently in the process of defending it. This is good work, though, from Sanguine. They were down in this game. Now they're up 4,000 with the late game Hell.
And one of the biggest strengths of this Horus has been keeping fights going that one team thought was over or wanted to be over. Hell never wants the fight to be over. She's down to keep on fighting this whole time. They've spent this entire Fire Giant buff, there's only 50 seconds left on it, standing on right Phoenix. And they're going to spend the last 50 seconds standing on mid Phoenix, because why not? We've got the Hell.
Yeah, they've got no re-engage potential to speak of on the side of Rival, and Sanguine can do this all day. They step in once again to the mid Phoenix. Jarcorr gets stunned out. Panitom goes aggressive. There's the upgraded Curse Dog, so Rival are all in on trying to force a bad fight. They go to Sheento, but the execute from the Fatal Strike, it's just not there. Sheento wasn't low enough for it, and that was their big kill potential. CaptainTwig doesn't get a lot with the Tycho drums either, and Sanguine claim both the mid and right Phoenix.
You can't tell that they just spent 4 minutes straight on Rival's tower line. We're talking about Rival as a team, and usually ones that draft compositions that just force you to answer their questions. They're always the ones in control. But really, right there, it was Sanguine, who consistently were like, okay, can you defend this wave? Sweet. How about this one? How about this one? Because we are going to be full health on every wave. You will not be, even though you're right on your Phoenix. You won't have all your relics every time. You won't have your ultimates every time. We get to determine everything that happens in these engagements. And that's what makes these healers so difficult to play against. Everything Rival has done has been correct so far. Cursed Ankh, check. Divine Ruin, check. Brawler's Beatstick, check. They don't have a Contagion or a Pestilence. and they wouldn't matter because Sheento's healing is not problematic when they're fighting. It's only problematic when they back up 25 feet and stare you in the eyes as they get to full HP again. That's when it really grinds your gears and you wish you could do something about it, but you just can't with the way that anti-heal works. So as long as Sanguine is able to disengage and their composition is really good at it with all the mobility they have, it's going to be very difficult for Rival to do anything about it.
They've just picked all these individually safe characters, right? I mean, who do you really feel comfortable about all-inning on this Sanguine roster? There's just not anyone. I mean, the airstrike, Sheento has the extra mobility and the cleanse to get him out of there. Ronngyu with those leaps and HP 5. It's hard to lock down. We all know how mobile Serqet is at this point in the game. Sanguine, by treading water throughout this early game well, and this is why I think it was important to mention that Netrioid did such a good job kind of taxing Rival every time they came over there to gank him in that left-hand side. By costing them something, he helped keep this game in reach.
Absolutely, and it only takes one slip-up for Rival to really let Sanguine back in this game. Sanguine try and rush a fire, and they end up winning the 50-50 to the point where now they're in control.
Panitom getting aggressive on the Sam for soccer over in mid. Fire Giant still being DPS'd as well. It's down to about half HP. Netrioid and Ronngyu working on that. PolarBearMike steps in. They catch him on the ring. He takes a ton of extra damage. That's the airstrike out from Netrioid, though. As he disengages, PolarBearMike will not get to the skies in time. Sheento gets the kill credit for it, and suddenly it's a 5v4 favoring Sanguine as they continue their aggression. Twig stuck on the backline. Sheento with another one. That makes a double kill. Now they want fineokay. Pull him right back in as well. He's trying to sustain. Sam does take care of Sheento, but what about Fine? There's too much damage pumping in. Netrioid gets another kill, and Sam and PandaCat are all that can defend Rival's base.
And the big difference this game, Finch, is that fineokay is not able to make a big impact. Last game, when you feel like Rival's out of it, Fine steps up and is able to really make a huge difference in that game. This game on the Achilles, he has been a complete non-factor. And that was part of the plan for Rival, was to let Fine struggle a little bit and set themselves up for more success later. That success has not come.
Well, PandaCat has walked into the trap. All of Sanguine were waiting near the Phoenix. He steps up to clear the wave, and he ends up paying for it with his life. So now the right side Phoenix, the second it respawns, goes down. But if I'm Rival, I'm still happy that this game is happening. I think you could have been legitimately worried the game ended a moment ago, so they're still in this. They still got a fighting chance, but Sanguine are absolutely in control as they take that Fire Giant. But you're right, though, to talk a bit more about fineokay, I think that's the right discussion. They have not been able to get anyone down to execute Threshold. That's what really has felt like the big difference.
I mean, normally Achilles is so good in the late game because it's hard for Warriors to get you to 0 in late game. They can get you to 35, 40% with their abilities. With some help, they'll finish off kills. What makes Achilles so strong is that he doesn't have to get you to 0. He just has to get you to execute Threshold. But with Sanguine's mobility and the healing, no one's even getting that low in this game. So Fine has really struggled to be able to get in there and make an impact. Achilles CC is really telegraphed. You know exactly who it's going to hit, when it's going to hit. You want to talk about easy cleanses. I mean, cleansing that stun should be, you could do that in your sleep if you're an SPL level Hell player. And Sheento certainly is that. 6-3-3 for him, 20,000 healing so far this game. That's a lot. That's an awful lot. That's completely erasing every point of damage that fineokay and PBM have done this game, and then some. That's absurd.
It's a ton of healing, and it's so hard to deal with it. And you start to wonder, is it even worth banning them out? I mean, because then you start like the Persephones and Merlins and all this other stuff back through, the Odins, the Kamazatas and such. It's difficult, man. When they make it to this point in the game, the healers are all going to look this good. But Sanguine did such a good job battling through that early game and getting to this point where now they can threaten the left side Phoenix. Team Rival have 4 members here, 1 in mid. That's Sam for soccer, who's trying to keep that mid Phoenix up for them on the Susano.
But they've got a big couple waves coming down that right-hand side. Sam has Match Eyes now, so this 1v1 for Panitom just got a lot less favorable. It's going to be a lot harder for him to guarantee get beads, but he still does enough damage to the Phoenix that he's going to threaten this mid-Phoenix by himself.
So fineokay deals with Panitom, Sam deals with minions. That gives a 4v3 to Sanguine on the left side Phoenix, and they're exploiting it well. Already have this Phoenix down to half HP. Netrioid takes quite a bit of poke too. He's at half, but We've got a hell, gentlemen. We'll be right back. Give us a moment to get sustained. Jarcorr blinks in first to start the fight. Panitom has to disengage. Aggression from PolarBearMike, but now he's being thrown back in. But the Taiko drums is huge from Twig. Netrioid ends up low. He thunder crashes in. This time, he's ready to get aggressive, and they manage to push Team Rival back. But PolarBearMike is using to the skies. They want more aggression. They want to find the Jarcorr here in mid. Hail of arrows is there. The damage starting to pour in. The collapse is there too, and they get 2 critical kills. But what can they get on the back? Look at this from Sanguine. They might be looking to try and sneak something if Rival go too far forward.
If Rival send too many members to the right, I think that Sanguine was talking about, can we backdoor this left side Phoenix? But they can't. Look at this teamfight recap and the difference in damage. And the difference that time is that Twig finds a really good Taiko drums. The last few have been very defensive, just trying to get something on the back end as he's trying to make sure he survives or something like that. Netrioid gets bursted in the middle of that half-a-second channel time of airstrike. He never gets off the ground, and that's what you have to do, is you have to be able to burst damage these people down. You cannot afford to try and chip them down with poke damage like Raijin often wants to do, but it's something that makes Raijin really good, is that he does both. He can all-in you. If there's not a million targets around for Raiju to jump around, you know, if he hits Raiju and Percussive Storm on 1 or 2 targets, that's going to 60% them with this build at this point in the game. Taiko drums will do 80% of your health bar if he gets to fire off all 4 his damage shots on you. So that's what makes Raijin and Merlin so much better than other mages, is they can poke and they can all in. And I think that a lot of mages really lack that in comparison, and that's why we don't see them very often.
CaptainTwig has had these moments where you can kind of see what the future's gonna be like, right? This is season 1 Midoriya. We know where he'll be eventually. And Twig is starting to show us, I think, those glimpses here time and time again. We're still getting a little bit, though, of the missteps of kind of being a bit out of position. But as you mentioned, I think this is a great starting spot for Twig, right? I mean, PandaCat looked great last year from minute 1, but that's not everyone's going to look like that, I don't think. Twig is certainly going to have time to refine this down and get into a great spot.
And to be fair, PandaCat transitioning from ADC to mid is a much, much easier transition than jungle to mid. So I don't think it's a really fair one-to-one comparison. And Twig has played so well, and that's what makes these occasional jump-ins and positioning woes so confusing, is that because the rest of the time, he's playing like a top-tier SPL mid. The man has 10k more damage than anybody else in the game. He did it last game too, pretty much. I mean, he does it so well that then it's like, how do we get from him doing everything perfectly to this horrendous mistake in the same game? Like that's where I get lost, is that I don't understand how we get from one place to the other, and it's going to be really easy to rein in those horrendous mistakes. Those are not going to happen for long. CaptainTwig is going to be just fine in the mid lane. I've got no concerns about it.
I agree. I mean, every time we've talked to him, hasn't he sounded like he knew what the mistake was? Hasn't he sounded like, you know, I understand, I got to rein that in a bit. Being proactive might not be the best thing. You know, we heard him say, so I think there's plenty of room for that to start coming down as Sam and Panitom battle again here in mid. The ultimate from Panitom has been expended. He gets the Magai's Cloak proc from Sam and forces him back down to half HP. Panitom has expended the ult without getting a whole lot in return.
Good amount of poke damage on Sam, though, and there's no hell on his team, so he's holding that until he backs. No lifesteal for him either, so he's just 2/3 HP for this fight.
Well, the Fire Giant has been started now by Sanguine, 37 minutes in. Sam and PolarBearMike considering some aggression there on left, or not left, but over near those mid-harpies. They don't find a lot there, and the Fire Giant gets reset. And this is where the task becomes so difficult for Rival. Maybe it's become easier for Sanguine. They're ready to step on the gas as Ronngyu moves in first. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel forces PandaCat into beads. The Taiko drums from Twig, I like the idea. It doesn't get a ton of value, but Sheento is low. They've managed to get to him. There's the execute from fineokay. They put Sheento down, and maybe that'll open things up here now for Team Rival. Jarcorr is low in the back as well, but look at Rival. They've got a ton of sporadic low health bars. Sam for Soccer is the first one that's low. Ronngyu chasing down PBM. They may have gotten Sheento, but it cost them a lot.
Yeah, but it only cost them Sam. I mean, it's going to cost them a lot of health bars and maybe ultimately Fire Giant here, but fineokay has TP. CaptainTwig can already go back and start resetting pretty soon. PBM will eventually get chased down, but what a great fight from Sam. He creates so much havoc in that backline. He does all the damage to Sheento effectively in that team fight that I could see. and ends up setting up fineokay for a beautiful, beautiful execute. First one that's landed for him all game.
Wow, and PBM should be able to make it out now that he's found this positioning. He has to use to the skies to do it, but that's just good maneuverability to be able to get away from Ronngyu. And really what it was that Sanguine weren't willing to commit any more resources to that chase on the PolarBearMike. They basically just gave up the chase. And because of that, that means that in all this time, Rival should be able to get back in and reset up here for this defensive positioning. Means that neither team gets a whole lot, but this next fight, Sheento won't have any relics.
But neither will CaptainTwig. So this is like overtime Smite. You know, like in the NHL, it goes to 3-on-3, and it's supposed to open up the game a little bit more. You know, be a little bit more fast paced. That's what Smite is without relics for backliners. It's overtime. You know, anything can happen in the blink of an eye, and the game will end because of it. It's more exciting this way in some ways. You know.
And I'm looking at fineokay and PolarBearMike because they still have their blinks, Ryan. So they can get back there to Netrioid and Sheento, who don't have those beads available. Sheento's got to be really on point with those beads. That's only if the fight happens in the next 20 seconds. They're about to have those beads back up in about 10 seconds. That's why they're being so far back in their positioning, so that doesn't happen.
Wouldn't be opposed to seeing PolarBearMike continue to just be this secondary initiator. A lot of times you want this Horus to be the first one in, but it seems like Mike has realized that he can't really afford to get all in committed onto. He's kind of waiting for fineokay and for some twig poke to go off before he starts to go in. I don't know that Panitom just saw Mike. The bird hidden in the trees didn't get spotted right there.
That's hard to believe, but Panitom must have been laser focused onto something else. So the Fire Giant gets started, and they're going to have no idea where PolarBearMike is. Sanfrecit gets away from his aggression. CaptainTwig puts out damage. PolarBearMike gets the beads from Sheento. I think that is more than enough value for PolarBearMike's excursion. But what about Twig? He's suddenly right in the thick of it. Goes to the Taiko drum, so Jarcorr all commits onto him, and he doesn't have the Thunder Crash to escape anymore either. Rivals suddenly have a bunch of low health bars. Twig does make it over the wall, but Panitom hunts him down, gets the first kill. fineokay answers back with a kill on the Jarcorr. Tons of low health bars, but Panitom is one that ends up falling.
But Sheento still up, which is huge. fineokay uses Fatal Strike just to close the gap and is trying to set up for PandaCat, but needs to be careful because there's Sheento still plenty healthy.
And they're going to have to just keep right on running. Rival don't feel comfortable coming back towards the FG, and they can't afford to keep up the chase. So they're yet again stuck in this middle ground. fineokay and PolarBearMike have to back. Sanfrecit is still lurking around too, and the remaining members of Sanguine are too healthy for you to start up the FG if you're Team Rival. This stalemate shall continue, Aggro. We've only had 29 kills in these 41 minutes, 20 seconds, but there's been non-stop action. It's just that these two teams are well matched.
Can you believe that Rival had 2 Phoenixes down not that long ago? I mean, don't forget that this game was, it looked like it was over in Rival's favor, then it looked like it was over in Sanguine's favor, and now it looks like, who knows what's going to happen. This is good, though, by Netrioid, because Oni Fury is usually a big breaker in these types of moments, but as soon as Rival hears this, they know this is a 4-on-2 on this Fire Giant, and they know they've got numbers advantage.
They're in a strong fight right now. Fire Giant's been started, but Rival don't want to stick around on it, so they leash it yet again. So Sanguine started up right away. They're going to force a Rival to come in and have a clean defense and disengage on the backside, and they're going to make that harder with Sheento there healing up the entire squad. Sheento moves out of the pit. Netrioid stays in for further DPS. Sanguine now fully leashing the objective. They're just going to take the fight. They've gotten fineokay to overcommit. Panitom had the sandwich, but they couldn't quite collapse. And CaptainTwig, I think, might have gotten a bit ahead of himself here with that Taiko drums. That wasn't quite right, and he ends up not getting the kill.
And PBM used 2 Disguise at the same time. I think you give this fire up at this point if you're a Rival. 2 key ultimates down. You've got a massive wave on the left-hand side, and that's before Oni minions get here. I think you've got to give this one up now.
Rival are sticking around, Aggro. Looks like even without those critical ultimates, they still want to fight, and this is what Sanguine have been waiting so patiently for 42, make it 43 minutes, is to finally have Rival up against the ropes like they do right now. Fire Giant down to half. Sanfrecit is not even here, so it's a 5v4 in their favor. fineokay does find the stun, but sticking onto the Fire Giant is Sanguine. They finally managed to secure it, and Rival couldn't slow him down.
And they're still thinking about going in here. Sam's starting to come on the way, but Sanguine's going to find their way in.
That's the Thunder Crash from CaptainTwig yet again. He's got to be careful, but the member that's really low is PandaCat. He gets the poison away at least and doesn't spread it to the teammates. But Sanguine got the kill they were looking for, but maybe Sam can clean up a bit. That's a big Typhoon. Ronngyu and Netrioid both low. Twig, Thunder crashes in, gets one, fineokay the second by claiming Panitom, and PolarBearMike is going hunting with it to the skies. He's come on the backside. Couldn't quite tell where he ended up landing, but he's back with the squad. At this point, Netrioid has made it out. They just want to lock down Jarcorr and Sheento in the back. But Twig is low, and Sheento man just a weave in a kill.
Sheento still healthy enough as the hell, but here comes Sam for Soccer, not healthy anymore. Helps PBM chop him down, and now Jarcorr is left in the midst of 3.
And he's going to see whoever is low. I'll just take that one. The Lord of the Afterlife doesn't quite get juked, and Jarcorr gets yet another kill. So now if you're Rival, you got to back up and make sure you can defend, because Netrioid is here, and he will chew through these Phoenixes if you can't keep him at bay. Rival on the brink of disaster at this point. Sanguine needing this game to keep the set going, but now they've got Netrioid locked down, but there's just not enough DPS. They recruit back under the Phoenix, and the struggle continues. Looks like Sanguine finally going to fall back.
Are they really not going to get a single Phoenix from this? It doesn't look like it. I mean, fineokay, that is such a smart decision there by PBM and fineokay. They understand that if they back up and just try and, okay, we'll clear mid-wave so that Netrioid can't get this. No way, dude. He's going to get right Phoenix, and then he might be able to walk over and get mid anyways. Instead, they just threaten to kill him, and without Hell there, it means that they can't end up getting any more. Rival's decision-making, I think, really threw Sanguine off there, because they send Sam for Soccer over to the left-hand side to deal with 2-3 waves. On that left-hand side, he had the massive wave under the Phoenix, Oni wave next, and then another wave coming. He cleared all of those, then started rotating over. The whole time, Sanguine's doing fire, thinking, what are these guys still doing here? We know it's a 5v4. They're just going to give it up, which Rival do, but they're still standing there afterwards, and Sanguine's thinking, okay, we still know it's a 5v4, and they take the bait and go in. And PandaCat, I think, was just a little bit too far forward. If he's even slightly further back, I think that goes really, really well for Rival, because Sam came in and did a phenomenal job in that team fight. He blinked in and instantly put Netrioid to 1 HP, Sheento's Aegis, and put him to half health, and immediately got out and was able to reassess that team fight after the fact. Sam's Susano has been really impressive so far, but Twig again finds himself in a bad spot after a Thunder Crash. The positioning in the first place, I think, puts him in a spot where no Thunder Crash feels particularly good there. Just a really rough sequence if you're going to take these longer fights. Anytime a fight is going to last 15 seconds against a team with Hell and a team that just got Fire Giant, it's going to be difficult.
Well, Sam likes his chances here up against Panitom. Gets the last breath to come out from the mantle stun. Or something must have come down in order to get that stun in favor of Sam for Soccer. Panitom continues to run. Sam correctly identifying that he wins that battle. And Sanguine gives up their pressure in left as a result. They don't even want to look for that left side Phoenix. Rival continue to find these extra lives and somehow stick around in this match.
Sam found Panitom. He was about to back, Sam was, but heard Panitom use a movement ability in mid to try and get to that wave, and did not hesitate at all. And without that mantle stun, I think he finds that kill. He lost his Magi's and his ult, so that is critical, and the blink, which has been a huge factor in getting on top of Sheento in these fights. But now Panitom doesn't have his beads for a little bit, or his mantle proc, both of which are very important.
Should be a bit easier to perhaps commit onto Panitom as a result. Sam is lurking towards mid to make sure that no one comes over to threaten, and it's a 4v4 that's happening in left. The blink is down for Sam, but everyone else on the Rival have their relics. Beads down for Panitom. Everyone else is good. It looks like it won't end up mattering. The two people on Sanguine who had FG lost it 20 seconds ago. They're just going to head back towards Primal Fury instead. Rival now starting to step out. And it looks like they've noticed To the Skies is being used, and they're going to collapse onto Sanguine here. I don't know if Sanguine have recognized this just yet. They're really looking to see if they can lock down Panitom, but two members get caught in the whirlwind of Rage and Steel. In particular, fineokay in trouble. Fatal Strike allows him to get away around the corner, but the rest of Sanguine are right there to lock him down. Netrioid gets the kill for it. Now PBM is stuck a bit separated from the rest of the squad too. Does manage to get that heal off, but Rival are fully running at this point.
And PolarBearMike, no way he lives this time around. I just feel like Rival lost their patience a little bit right there. Nothing about that fight screams that they're super favored. No relics were down that were really big. I mean, yes, Panitom didn't have his beads, but that's not enough to all in right there, and that might have just been the game.
It looks like it could be. CaptainTwig is starting to be low. Aegis buys him some time, and it actually works. They get the kill onto Jarcorr, and CaptainTwig survives. Not just that, but Sanguine don't feel comfortable looking for the end. There's too many members up from Team Rival. So this battle continues. The seesaw continues to tip back and forth. But Sanguine are lurking outside their base, waiting on him. Ronngyu looking for something. Doesn't find much there. I don't think Sanguine are entirely done with this push yet.
No, I mean, they've got the hell, so they can keep on sieging as long as they want, but I feel like using that numbers advantage to get fire would have been a little bit safer, but now they can't, because fineokay's up in 10 seconds. He's likely to have TP, which he does. PBM is up in 15 seconds, and he's got to the sky, so he doesn't have to get that far. Now, even though Rival has that mid-Phoenix down, I feel like it's Rival that have the advantage, knowing that Jarcorr is down for 30 seconds plus. Rival doesn't have enough of an advantage to go to get fire, but now they should be able to get some sort of positional stakes on this right-hand side. Mid-Phoenix is annoying to deal with, but certainly not the end of the world, because you can easily get to the Fire Giant fight after clearing a fire wave or two. It's not nearly as much of a commitment as we saw from Sam for Soccer earlier when he had to go all the way to the long lane in order to find something.
To the skies again coming out from PolarBearMike. I wonder if this time it was unintentionally a bit premature. He lands behind the Fire Giant. I wonder if that was to try and disguise it a bit, to maybe not reveal the cooldown was used. But I don't know if that necessarily worked. I think Sanguine had good vision on it at that point. But you talked about it before the game had even started, or kind of towards the beginning, that even though Sanguine have the hell, Rival probably have the better late-game team fight. And is that what that kind of feels like? Like if Rival weren't against a hell, this might already be over?
Yeah, I mean, that goes to show you what hell does for your composition when she's that good that she can single-handedly hold on to an entire team fight for you. But that's really what it's felt like Sheento has done. Healing over 34k at this point. You call that 35 because he's one away from it. That's just so much healing that you have to worry about. So much at this point. I'm surprised, by the way, at CaptainTwig's choice of item to replace his boots. He goes with Soul Gem, maybe feeling like he needed a little bit more CDR. I feel like if he just wants more CDR, Chronos Pendant is the call in that spot. And if you just want more damage, Rod is outright better. Rod of Tahuti would just be better served.
Panitom wanted to get the Mad Guy's cloak for Sam, but instead, he's going to lose his life board. What a turnaround play. Sam didn't let Panitom just walk in at him. Instead, he answered back, and Rival all together in unison lockstep. I say all together in unison lockstep, but only 3 head towards the FG. Sam is over near red buff, and fineokay is still in mid, so the 3-man squad will try and bring the FG down low. Jarcorr is right out front to try and slow them down. Meanwhile, fineokay takes a bunch of damage in mid. They have to give up the FG, and Sam is going to try and come solo, threaten the Phoenix by himself using the extra mini wave. Perhaps this is what they truly wanted after all, was to be able to threaten this left side Phoenix, and they're going to get it. No one can defend this in time.
And Sam's going to be able to get out here unless Netrioid tries to cut him off. And looks like that actually might be the call to try and kill Sam, which would be huge at this point. No blink for him, though Sanguine doesn't know that. But they can tell that he's dead at this point. No way he gets out of this. Rival has to secure fire here, though.
They've got to, because Sam has 3 members with him. Sam should be able to tell them that and then be able to have the rest of the team confidently secure the FG. And now we got to disengage, Rival. Get on out of there. You don't have Sam. You've got Fire Giant. You need to be able to regroup and make a play with it. Sanguine don't have Panitom for another 10 seconds there either, but the left side Phoenix is down furthest from the FG. Perhaps that gives enough of a slight edge to Team Rival.
And they're going to get their mid-Phoenix up pretty quickly as well. So this is a good trade for Rival for sure. And a key part of this game has been the fact that Sam has just handled Panitom in these 1v1s every single time that they have stepped to one another. That has been important to the outcome of this game, one way or the other.
And I do think the Susano favored there, but to your point,
without a doubt.
Like he's handled those fights as well as he should, considering the situation. So Sanguine want to try and punish and grab this mid-Phoenix in respawn. They've gotten it low, and they do manage to take it down. They're going to full-on commit. Sam's still 25 seconds away from being there, so Rival can't afford to lose any more members. Sanguine want to try and just take the game. They're all in the Titan, but here comes to the skies to knock a couple members up. Jarcorr takes too much damage. In fact, he's entirely too low as disengaged. The Taiko drums coming out. He does clip Netrioid once, doesn't get a lot of other value, so in comes Panitom, but Sanguine cannot do enough. They can't end the game here. Rival hold on tough and send Sanguine packing.
They get the mid-Phoenix again, but Sanguine is not going to be able to get any more than that because they've got to worry about big wave of fire
this could
minions.
be bad.
Rival's only job here is to make sure that they can't back.
And that's why Sanguine have recognized that's why they're turning around. They have to win the fight quickly, or they might just lose the game outright. So they turn around and take the battle. But the Titan's already down to half HP. PolarBearMike is in some trouble too, and so Ronngyu is going to be able to complete the back. He should be able to defend the base now off the back of this heads-up play. But fineokay takes care of Netrioid to keep this fight going. This has been an epic battle, all 54 minutes of it here between these two teams. I love the heads-up plays in both directions.
Unbelievable. fineokay might have gotten caught now. I don't know if he can get away from Sheento's damage. He's going to sacrifice himself knowing that he can't get away. Man, that insane fight in the mid lane. And now can two members for 40+ seconds hold this Titan against 3? No relics for Sam for Soccer. No beads for PandaCat.
No.
I don't know. Are Sanguine even going for the win at this point? Are they just going to go for Phoenixes? It looks like they're going to try and end the game.
And I don't know that Rival have recognized it yet. They're still heading back towards the fountain instead of being in their defensive positions just yet. Sanguine are right on the door. 54.5 minutes to this moment. But they're not ready to try and push the button yet. They got a ton of time, as you alluded to work with. So they'll head over and try and grab the right side Phoenix instead. And Sam definitely can't defend this, so they have to give it up. PandaCat will take what extra poke damage he can, but CaptainTwig will be up in 3 seconds. I don't know about this call aggro. Yeah, they get the right side Phoenix, but they never even take a crack at it in the game.
Yeah, but I don't know that they really could. I mean, that Titan, it's still pretty tanky at this point. It's not unbeatable in the 3v2, but Jarcorr didn't come back. He was worried about Sam just backdooring the Phoenix or something like that. They didn't have any eyes on Sam that entire time when they were walking up, so they don't know exactly where he is. They can't afford to end up losing off that.
This is potentially risky. Another skirmish happening here in the jungle without fineokay up for Team Rival. So remember the big play Team Rival makes. They get the FG. They open up the left side Phoenix. Well, all of that starting to fade away. 20 seconds left for PandaCat's Fire Giant buff, the only one remaining. Left side Phoenix back up. Is it fully healthy? No, but it is back up. That means the Titan can start to regen for Sanguine here as well. And Sanguine have gotten the right side and mid Phoenix down on side of Team Rival. I think that Sanguine have MacGyvered this game state back to favorable for them.
What a game, dude. This is one of the
It's been an insane game.
Back and forth games I think I've ever casted in my 4 years of casting the SMITE Pro League. It's been absolutely nuts so far. And at this point, yes, I agree that Sanguine are favored at this point. We are one team fight away from this game ending one way or the other quickly as well. So yes, Sanguine are the ones with initiative, so to speak, but it's not a massive lead by any stretch. They cannot afford to assume that they're coasting for the rest of this game, because they aren't.
Well, Sanguine aren't even going to go to the Fire Giant. They're making a 5-man grouping on the left side Phoenix. Mid Phoenix should be back up for Team Rival here shortly. Sanguine aren't threatening that one here, so to speak, and Rival are in position to play some defense. Fire Giant will be back up way back on the other side of the map in 10 seconds. So Sanguine are here for this battle and left, maybe just testing the security system, so to speak, and Rivals show they got their ADT. They're certainly home, and Sanguine have to back up.
And PolarBearMike has that ultimate, so they know that they can't lazy back here. If they let 1 or 2 members go back to base by themselves, the rest of them could end up just being the victims of a feeding frenzy. But Sanguine, what do you know? Stay as 5 perfectly the entire time. That's kind of their calling card at this point.
I would certainly say so. Anyone out there better at grouping than these guys, let me know, because we might be able to get them into some competitive SMITE as Sanguine start up the Fire Giant. Team Rival are certainly nearby. Sam going for the loop, and I don't think there's warding on this side. I saw ping come out, so maybe they do recognize that this is where Sam is. They do. They blink on it, but he still gets really good damage on the Netrioid. It blows him up. The Aegis came off, and he dies channeling the airstrike. That's huge. Sam for Soccer finds the kill and makes it back out. You got to be kidding me with this guy's performance. He's kept them in this game.
His Susano is just insane. Now fineokay finds the stun onto Jarcorr. Ronngyu trying to zone out CaptainTwig's damage, but he's probably going to eat a good amount on the back end.
Ronngyu getting pulled back in by the Taiko drums as well. Now he's in execute threshold, but Sam has no need for executes. Takes care of Ronngyu for his second kill of this battle. And I know that Sam is low, but I don't know if Team Rival are going to get another chance here quite like this one. They've got to stick around on this right side Phoenix and look to threaten while Sanguine are low.
But every relic's still up for Sheento and Jarcorr, and Panitom only missing that blink. There is no wave coming here for Rival, so they are just using this time for PBM sustain.
They're right outside this right side Phoenix. They're already stepping in. They've got it down to half, and Sanguine don't feel comfortable stepping forward to defend. This will be a soft defense, is what I like to call it. They'll just delay Rival a bit, but they can't afford to commit, and Rival won't overstep. Wait, maybe this is, I don't know that Sanguine are expecting it. They're expecting a disengage, but the To the Skies is going right to the actual Titan. Sanguine recognize that they're here to play some defense. Good damage comes out into Sam early, and the Titan still relatively tanky here at this point, but they send Sheento back to base. Titan now at half HP. They got to commit to this to make this play work, and they do. Rival from the brink snatch victory back from Sanguine and put him down 2-0.
What a game, dude. That is in the history books right away, dude. It's one of the coolest SMITE games I've ever casted in my entire life. And to end like that, the all-in onto the Titan, using that extra shield from the Horus, at some point, there's just so much damage that you can't body block at all, and that's what ends up happening. But I don't care what anybody says, man. Sam Versoccer, MVP by a mile, dude. How many 1v1s did he win in that late game? You want to talk about assassin instincts? Sam, you know, he's got a sweet face. He's all nice all the time. But in the battlegrounds, dude, the dude's a murderer, a serial killer, a psychopath. And he went nuts in that game against Sanguine.
Yeah, singularly focused on finding someone to get out of that fight. What a great game from Sam and all of Rival to be able to take care of Sanguine 2-0. But we've talked for literally an hour at this point, so I'll get it back over to the desk and let them break it down.
Yeah, take a breather, fellas. That's an hour-long game that hands Sanguine their first defeat here in the SPL, and maybe no better game to talk about our chair sponsor, Maxonomic. Everyone watching here, you've been sat in your chairs for an hour. I'm sure 15 minutes in, the discomfort sets in. 45 minutes in, maybe you're starting to consider it. Now, an hour later, after a barn burner of a game, you might be in the market for a new chair. Maxonomic, our sponsor here, SMITE Max, for $50 off. NeedForSeatUSA.com. Go check them out. Mifflin here with me to break down the longest game, of SPL that we've had so far this year. And where to begin? I mean, we've gone out, we filed our taxes, we've meal prepped for this week. But if you did any of that, you've missed a great game of SMITE. Let's rewind all the way to early game, Mifflin. And this one starts off much the same as game number one, where Rival are able to control that long lane. They get a couple kills onto Netrioid, but the brakes get hit 15 minutes in, and we are back and forth from then till the end.
It's just as you said, Rival was in the driver's seat. One throw put Sanguine back in the match completely. I mean, it was looking like a 20-minute game, and then Sanguine completely turned it around. Then 30 minutes in, Sanguine has multitudes of end attempts they could make. There was a 4v2 where two Phoenixes were down for Rival. They still had Blink and Ultimate available on Serqet. They could have moved into end there. They didn't. Another time they go for Fire Giant. PBM kites away the entirety of Sanguine, so they don't even get Fire Giant or another Phoenix, keeping them in the game even longer. I mean, I could break down this game a ton, but I think Aggro did the best job of it when he said that Sam Soccer is a literal murderous sociopath, just completely ripping through the entirety of Sanguine for an hour straight. I can't call that anything else besides a literal crime.
Which is hilarious when you know how nice of a dude Sam is. Those are all words that I don't think he'd ever use to describe him out of game, but in game, I think that stands pretty strong. And Mifflin, this is a pretty high-level question. Is that good play from one team, maybe? Good play from Rival that extends this game? Maybe good play from Sanguine that extends this game? Or do you think it's really Sanguine in the late game that made mistakes there in dropping a game that they should have won? Or was this maybe Rival's to win? What's your kind of take on that high-level look here at this game?
Well, victory always determines history, right? I think we could say that Rival's defense was airtight for the majority of the last 30 minutes of that game. Past the 30-minute mark, I don't think Rival had three Phoenixes up for more than a minute put together. But regardless, their defense was airtight. Anytime that Sanguine decided to move up, they get immediately repulsed by CaptainTwig on this Raijin. I mean, the one time the entirety of Sanguine even make an attempt for an end is versus 4 members standing strong on Rival with Fire Giant. I think saying that Sanguine misplayed might be a bit of an understatement. It looked like there was a lot of hesitation to end the match. It looked like they just didn't quite understand how they wanted to continue forward after they burned down those 2 Phoenixes. But Rival, you can't take away from the play. They were playing
absolutely not.
Absolutely crazy. The defense was airtight. That's the only way to describe it.
And I love that the final replay, Sam for Soccer finding the roundabout gank at that Fire Giant really seals this game. You can sense how close it was and how consistent it was there, that Rival just turn around and immediately run down the base. The sociopath, the killer, the murderous man in the battleground of the gods. We've got him standing by with Finch to hear his thoughts.
Dude, I can't wait till we get Sam on the screen. This is the guy we're talking about here, right? The nicest guy you'll ever meet. I got Sam for Soccer here. First of all, how are you feeling about all this extra gas you're getting here towards the end of the game, my man?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, I guess. I don't know. I mean, always feels good to get hyped up, but yeah, it's not really the main reason you play, you know?
No, certainly not. Well, talk to me a little bit about about setting up that kill in the Netrioid, because I do think that is the game-ending kill. What is it that you saw that made you think that you could happen? Was that just something that you felt? You knew they didn't have ward cover, didn't have time to set up? How did you recognize you could make that play?
I don't know. I was in a spot that I was pretty sure they didn't see me pathing down, and then it looked like he didn't know I was there at all. So eventually, I just waited till the time I thought I could go on him, and I don't know, it kind of worked out.
Well, you also took a lot of individual fights with Panitom that fight. We see this happen a lot when there's extended or Fire Giant fights. The junglers will kind of come over to mid and they'll have a little skirmish. A lot of those went your way. Was that just you favored with the Susano, or what was going on in those fights too?
Yeah, I'd say mainly it's matchup dependent. He's a lot more hybrid-y and stuff, and I'm just kind of full damage plus God matchup wise. So I just think I win it. And he seemed like he wanted to get my magic a lot and stuff, so it's kind of easy to I guess bait those fights and have them come to you, you know.
Yeah, I think when you got the real kill, he was just walking at you, desperate for a Cobra's kiss, and you blew him up and never gave him the chance. Well, try if you can remember to the 30-minute mark in that game when you all clawed your way back in, but it looks like Sanguine are back in control. What was the messaging amongst the squad? Did you know that you just needed one fight to go your way, or what was the team mentality like?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like you always kind of feel like that in general. It's not I mean, you definitely never think that you're out of the game or that you lost, but it's kind of hard to explain the whole mentality. I mean, you're just kind of looking for any pick plays or any good fights that you think you can get. Really, I think that's about it.
Well, can I get your honest opinion here of the Sanguine squad? If you guys tangled with them for nearly 2 hours of actual game time, do you feel like these guys are the real deal?
Yeah, they're definitely a really good team. I think maybe even personally I underrated them a little. Not to say that we didn't prepare for them or anything, obviously, but
sure.
They're definitely a very strong team, and I think they can take wins off of anybody. Yeah.
I think they're a strong team. Well, I find myself agreeing. Sam for Soccer, jungler for Team Rival, and certainly the set MVP of that performance. Thanks, Sam, for taking some time to talk with us. I'll get it back over to David Mifflin to close out the day.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Finch, and appreciate it, Sam. Thanks for sitting down. Always humble in the eyes of all that gas is Sam. And I kind of want to piggyback off a point that he made. What's maybe your takeaway here, Mifflin, on Sanguine after this week? I mean, obviously, it's only the third game we've seen them play, but they got off to a roaring start, end up collapsing into a very strong team in Rival. What's your takeaway now after seeing this Sanguine, this iteration this week?
I think that the best takeaway we can make is that Sanguine, if this were an arena league, they would go absolutely undefeated. Insofar as 5v5 team fights, I think that they might have the best one in the league. Unfortunately, Conquest is won through a plethora of avenues. You can play the objectives, you can choose when to end, you can go into this Fire Giant, you can force fights. They need to work on a little bit more of that. But as far as communication lines and targeting, they've got all of that in spades. Once they learn to play the map just a little bit better, Sanguine is going to be one of the best teams in the league.
And they'll be getting a lot of practice against a lot of very good teams. Sanguine back in action tomorrow against the Renegades. 5 p.m. is the slotted time, depending on how matchup number 1 goes here. Your updated standings, Radiant still on top, did not play this week, but every team in the league now has played 3 games, so all level playing field here. Obey still searching for their first win. Sanguine just today suffering their first loss. And maybe not surprising, a little bit of justice, I think, here for Rival. A lot of people had them slated with those top few teams, and for good reason, coming into the league this year. So I like seeing them kind of back up in that second place spot, and I think they'll give some of those top teams a run for their money, and lots of great SMITE action to watch as the split unfolds.
Absolutely. I mean, when you've got a literal cold-blooded murder, I mean, he literally committed an hour of crime and then got on the camera and smiled and talked well about the enemies. This dude is cold-blooded. When you have the world's MVP on your squad, I think you can only expect great things.
Well, I'm gonna pull us out here before people start to correlate Sam the human with all of this this gas we've been giving him in game. That's all we've got for you today for the SPL. Remember, we are live again tomorrow and Sunday, for that matter. We're going to kick things off with E United up against Obey, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure to tune in for that. But on behalf of myself, Mifflin, all the other casters, everyone back in production, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.